Chapter 1948. Buzz, buzz, buzz. The high-frequency rotation caused the entire void to vibrate. However, many demonic shadows were unable to struggle out and were slowly refined. My imprint has the aura of the Destiny Twins' martial soul. Chu Yang felt that the demonic bell had gradually stabilized and was completely relieved. After the demonic bell swallowed the blood essence of many demonic gods, it needed to be refined slowly. When it was finished, there would be a qualitative change. Master, this holy fetus was originally a 5 elements holy fetus. It's much more amazing than ordinary holy fetus. The Ice Kuan's voice sounded. Chu Yang looked at the devil fetus and was stunned. At this moment, the blood essence of the demonic gods had been completely swallowed by the demonic bell. The devil fetus was no longer a devil fetus. It returned to its original appearance. It was crystal clear and emitted 5-colored light. There were 5 light balls rotating slowly in it, not only swallowing external energy to replenish itself. There was energy flowing between the 5 light balls, forming a 5-colored divine ring. It constantly emitted 5-colored divine light, as if it was constantly performing the divine light of 5 colors divine light. The 5 light balls are flowing with the energy of the 5 elements: metal, wood, water, fire, and earth. This is the cycle of the 5 elements. As the Ice Kuan said, these were holy fetus related to the 5 elements. However, this was not the most amazing thing. The 5 light balls were like 5 embryos. Didn't this mean that there were 5 holy fetus among them? A womb with 5 children. This was like a mother who was pregnant with 5 children in her womb. It was very rare. In other words, if Chu Yang refined the holy fetus, he would get 5 doppelgangers, and 5 saint doppelgangers. The surprise came too suddenly. Chu Yang was so shocked that he almost bit his tongue. He asked anxiously, "Kuan, are the 5 holy fetus at the saint level?" This was naturally what he was most concerned about. After all, if she was pregnant with 5 children at the same time, the burden of this mother would be too heavy. It was possible that the fetus in her womb would be malnourished. "Yes, Master," the Ice Kuan said. "However, these 5 holy fetus are likely to die. Fortunately, they are nourished by the blood essence of many demonic gods. Otherwise, they would have died in the womb." No way. It was like a bolt from the blue. Chu Yang's mind shook. The greater the hope, the greater the disappointment. At Master's level, perhaps no one but Master can refine these 5 sacred embryos. When the Ice Kuan's voice entered Chu Yang's ears again, he couldn't help but be overjoyed again. His mood was like a roller coaster. He couldn't help but scold the Ice Kuan. "I say, Kuan, can you say it all at once?" "Hehe, isn't that what I learned from you, Master?" Bing Kuan smiled and said, "Only Master's lightning punishment is scary enough." Chu Yang was slightly stunned. It turned out that it wasn't because of his abilities, but because of his lightning punishment. After all, the holy embryo is a process of turning from a dead object into a living creature. Therefore, it must go through the thunder tribulation. Bing Kuan knew that Chu Yang was not clear about this, so he began to explain it to him. The sacred embryo was originally not a living creature, but because of the accumulation of spiritual energy, it developed intelligence over time. Later on, it slowly transformed into a living creature. Even the weakest among them, who couldn't withstand the lightning punishment, had to be nourished by the lightning. The thunder tribulation represented the approval of heaven and earth. The other was that even if heaven and earth didn't approve of them, they would definitely be destroyed by the thunder tribulation. Therefore, people generally believed that the sacred embryo had to go through the thunder tribulation in order to transform into a living creature. "Master, your thunder tribulation is indeed scary, but the power of the lightning that descends may not be enough. Therefore, Master, you have to think carefully." The thunder tribulation was one of Chu Yang's main trump cards. Once he lost this trump card, he would be in trouble. Bing Kuan knew very well, so he said that. Chapter 1949. Ice Kuan naturally wasn't surprised by Chu Yang's choice. It wouldn't be too difficult for anyone to make this choice. As Chu Yang spoke, he injected his essence blood into the 5 saint fetuses, causing the 5 saint fetuses to take on the human form of 5 of them. Looking at the 5 human figures, he seemed to see himself in his mother's womb. He couldn't help but say to himself, I hope my luck is still as good this time, and there will be another change in the sky. Damn God, I yuan % yuan. In order to face an even more shocking thunder tribulation, he directly activated the 3-character scripture. After cursing God, he took the saint fetuses and left the 7-demon realm. He was ready to break through to the transcendence realm and attract the thunder tribulation. Rumble. Chu Yang seemed to be able to summon and dismiss the thunder tribulations at will. The moment he released the suppression, the magic power in his body erupted like fire. However, before the magic power could condense into a Dharma form behind his back, thunder rumbled in the sky and a huge force of heaven's might descended. Thunder cloud gathered quickly, thick, and huge. In the blink of an eye, the whole sky seemed to be covered by a piece of black cloth. The sky suddenly lowered and darkened. In the rumbling thunder, the heavy rain poured down. The whole world was instantly dark, and people couldn't see more than 10 meters away. Waha! Chu Yang was overjoyed. His thunder tribulation looked very scary. He sat down in the heavy rain and began to condense his transcendence realm. The transcendence realm was the most important step for warriors in the heavenly soul realm. The stronger the transcendence realm, the stronger the warrior would be. But the transcendence realm could not be condensed at will. Forging iron required one's own strength. The strength of the transcendence realm depended on the foundation of the warrior's own martial arts, whether the accumulation was strong or not, and other factors. It required a very clear understanding of oneself. In this way, the goal would not be too low, and the condensation of the transcendence realm would not fail. The goal would also not be too low, resulting in the transcendence realm being too weak. In general, the condensation process of the transcendence realm was a process of self-examination, self-recognition, and self-correction. It involved many factors. If the transcendence realm was condensed without knowing it, it would have a great impact on one's future martial arts. After all, the Dharma form was the crystallization of a martial artist's cultivation. It was the result of martial arts and was the only point of support for martial arts in the future. Chu Yang was naturally very interested in this and had also thought deeply about it. He didn't like the black tortoise, vermilion bird, azure dragon, white tiger, and the other Dharma idols. He also didn't think that the dark demon emperor, radiant ruler, and star sovereign were suitable. As for the Godhead and his destiny twins martial spirits, he also rejected them. In the end, his choice was simple and crude. If the saying that man was the measure of all things was absolutely true, then to Chu Yang, he was the measure of all things. I am the standard. If he did not exist, then everything would be meaningless to him. It was the condensation of his Dharma idol. He had chosen himself as his Dharma idol. Bing Kuan had been guessing what kind of Dharma form his master would choose. However, after learning the final result, he was stunned for a while before regaining his senses. He was really shocked. Even if he was not from the heavenly soul world, he also knew the common sense. Generally speaking, the Dharma form would choose a powerful existence in the world that had proven itself. With himself as the Dharma form, how powerful could such a Dharma form be? It might be the weakest Dharma form in the heavenly soul world. To be exact, if there were no abnormal changes, Chu Yang's Dharma form would definitely be the weakest Dharma form. But who do you think you are? Bing Kuan couldn't say such a sentence. This sentence might be suitable for everyone, but Chu Yang was definitely not in this category. He had already jumped out of the norm and was not bound by the laws of martial arts, so he was suitable to be different. Chu Yang was opening his own path, forming his own unique Tao. Therefore, Bing Kuan was not qualified to guide Chu Yang at all. Chapter 1950. With himself as the avatar, Chu Yang didn't know what would happen. It was an attempt, a risk, but Huang Xiaolong was inclined to do so. He was being stubborn again, he wanted to be different from the rest, he wanted to do something unique. With me as the scale, with myself as the avatar, let me see if there will be any difference, and what will happen. Chu Yang let out a long roar, his arcane energy surged and condensed into a single point that rapidly transformed into the shape of a godhead. Inside the godhead, there were godheads within godheads, one after another, corresponding to his heavenly abodes. The cultivation base of the myriad god world was naturally his cultivation base. He used the godheads of the myriad god world as the starting point of his avatar. Rumble, rumble, rumble. As soon as the godheads appeared, the rumbling of thunder in the sky became more violent, visible sound waves blasted down from the sky, the thunderous rumbles shook the heaven and earth, as if the heaven and earth were on the verge of breaking apart. Good, good, good. Using the myriad god world's cultivation system as the starting point is really not tolerated by the heavenly spirit world. Maybe the lightning punishment will turn into a heavenly change, a terrifying lightning punishment will appear. Chu Yang could feel the rejection from the heaven and earth towards the godheads. He couldn't help but exclaim loudly, "Good." This made him even more certain that with his avatar as the avatar he formed wouldn't be the weakest avatar in history, but the most unique avatar in the history of the heavenly spirit world. Me, my avatar is formed. His heart was filled with lofty ambitions, his heart surged with heroic spirit as he roared. Amidst the rumbling of thunder, with the godheads formed from arcane energy as the center, the first change among the 100 godheads appeared, only 2 of them remained, the rest of the godheads transformed into heavenly abodes. The transformation of the godheads into heavenly abodes was a regression, but it matched perfectly with Chu Yang's cultivation base. At this time, the arcane energy also condensed into a blurry humanoid figure. This humanoid figure was completely different from Chu Yang. It was the figure of a woman. Creation divine ability. Chu Yang let out a long roar again and used his creation magical power. In the blink of an eye, the blurry human figure rapidly materialized and turned into flesh and blood. Soon, Chu Yang's mother, Liu Yi, appeared. Her abdomen was bulging. She was already 10 months pregnant. The fetus in her womb also appeared, bursting with light. Rumble. The thunder became even more intense. However, it was unable to cover up the cries of the newborn baby. Although the cries were weak, they were louder than the thunder. Chu Yang was simulating the process of his own birth, simulating the process of creation. He equated his own law to that of a human, and its condensation was also like the birth of a human. The cries soon turned into the babbling of a baby learning to speak, then into the laughter of a child, and finally into the laughter of a teenager. In the blink of an eye, a Dharma idol with flesh and blood, which was like a clone of Chu Yang, quickly took shape and landed behind Chu Yang. As soon as it appeared, there was a rumbling sound, as if there was an invisible axe in heaven and earth chopping down, as if the lightning punishment had already descended. Heaven and earth shook, and Chu Yang's Dharma idol suddenly became blurry at this moment, as if it was affected by the great Tao of heaven and earth. Ha ha, the lightning tribulation seems to be getting stranger and stranger. It seems that I have overstepped my bounds again. Chapter 1951. Damn God, I want to see how you can't tolerate me. Chu Yang was waiting for the lightning punishment, but it didn't fall. He didn't know what kind of lightning punishment it would be, so he was a little nervous. However, when he saw the saint embryo, all his nervousness and uneasiness disappeared. There was only a fire in his eyes. If he succeeded, he would have 5 saint clones. Rumble. Loud thunder rumbled, and the dazzling lightning illuminated the dark world. The downpour suddenly stopped, and there was finally a change in the firmament. Chu Yang looked up at the firmament and saw that the endless thunder and lightning had turned into a brush, writing a big red word, sin. Once the word sin was written, all the thunder and lightning disappeared and fell slowly like a heavy snow, faintly emitting a strong warning and persuasion. The sea of bitterness is boundless, turn back and be saved. Ha ha. Chu Yang had such a feeling and couldn't help but laugh out loud again. Sin, bullshit sin, who can convict me of sin? He was so rampant that Bing Kuan couldn't help but be stunned. His master was clearly provoking the majesty of heaven and earth, provoking the majesty of the great Tao. He was lawless. Maybe this is how it should be. Bing Kuan thought about it and felt relieved about all the things about Chu Yang. He thought to himself, besides Master himself, in this world, who and what is worthy of being his Dharma form? The word sin finally fell on top of Chu Yang's head. Suddenly, Chu Yang's spirit blurred, as if he was drawn into an inexplicable time and space. In that time and space, he was listed for all kinds of crimes. However, He didn't know what the specific crimes were. The reason seemed to be the language of heaven. The language of the great Tao was too profound, and he couldn't understand it. However, he could clearly feel the knife of heaven in that time and space, as if to stop him from continuing to commit crimes. Countless imposing figures appeared, filled with righteous indignation, and wanted to kill him. "Ha ha, damn God, you say that I am guilty. Interesting." Chu Yang's spirit shook and broke free from that state. He roared, "Saint Embryo, keep." Rumble. He used the Saint Fetus to devour the word sin. In an instant, the sin character exploded in the Saint Fetus and turned into rolling lightning. Endless lightning energy was released, and it was extremely dazzling. It couldn't be seen with the naked eye. In the blink of an eye, the endless power of thunder and lightning was completely absorbed by the 5 balls of light. The thunder and lightning instantly dimmed. Then, the 5 balls of light disappeared and were replaced by 5 Chuyang. Thunder and lightning were sizzling above their 9 orifices. This was the power of thunder nourishing the 5 Saint Fetuses. Not bad. Chuyang was extremely satisfied. Up until now, everything was going according to his plan without any deviation. Seeing that he was about to succeed, he couldn't help but become even more excited. He raised his head to the sky and shouted, "Damned heavens, let the lightning tribulation come more violently." Bing Kuan also laughed at this moment. Not many people could be like his master, who could casually make fun of the thunder tribulation. In the face of the thunder tribulation, most warriors were worried and terrified. Rumble. The thunder tribulation fell again. This time, it was still one word, kill. It was different from the word sin from before. This word kill quickly fell down as soon as it was formed. It was as if a county magistrate had slammed a gavel down to announce a verdict of execution. It was as if he was about to drag Chu Yang out and behead him. "You really treat me as a prisoner." He laughed and then mocked himself. He didn't take it seriously. This time, before the kill character fell, he controlled the Saint Fetus to meet it and directly devour the kill character and the thunder tribulation. The endless power of thunder burst out again. At this time, the 5 Chuyang suddenly opened their eyes. Their dazzling eyes were even brighter than the lightning. Chapter 1952. They began to breathe, to listen to the sounds of heaven and earth, to speak with their mouths, to touch heaven and earth. Every movement was the first, and every movement was accompanied by an endless amount of life energy. Endless mysteries flowed, and the void trembled endlessly. Each and every one of these 5 seemed to be creating new worlds, as if they were creating things. They were not about to be born and appear in the world. Good, good, good. Chu Yang was overjoyed when he felt the astonishing change in energy. When the rumbling thunder came down again, he was overjoyed, but then he was shocked the thunder didn't strike him this time, but the 5 Saint Fetuses. Then, a sudden change occurred. Under the bombardment of thunder, the 5 Saint Fetuses all flew out. Then, as if obeying some kind of command, they all flew into Chu Yang's Dharma idol and merged completely with it. ZZZT 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 ZZZT. Chu Yang's Dharma idol was immediately enveloped by the power of thunder, and the sizzling sound of thunder resounded endlessly. Roar! The roar of a dragon suddenly came from the Dharma idol. Then, a thunder dragon drilled in and out of each of the 9 orifices of Chu Yang's Dharma idol. When it exited, it devoured the essence of the heavens, and when it entered, it drilled in and out of the Dharma idol. The 9 dragons were like 9 hardworking bees. They seemed to be collecting pollen, but also building a beehive. The Dharma idol was a primordial chaos, and inside it was a world of its own where life was slowly being formed. Then, the flesh, tendons, bones, and organs of the Dharma idol appeared and formed one by one. Those were real flesh, tendons, and bones. Thump, thump, thump. The heartbeat was like a heavenly drum, and the drumbeat was like thunder. Along with the beating of the heart, the blood in Fa Xiong's body surged like a raging river. Billows of life energy swept out and flooded the surroundings. In the void, patches of green grass, flowers, and vegetation appeared one by one. There were even flowers, birds, fish, and insects. What's going on? Chu Yang felt that something was wrong, and his smile froze on his face. The Dharma idol seemed to have completely merged with the 5 saint fetuses. The Dharma idol was the saint fetuses, and the saint fetuses were the Dharma idol. It was unbelievable. Such a thing had never happened in the heavenly spirit world before. The rolling thunder also disappeared. When Chu Yang raised his head to look at the sky, he was shocked to see that the thunder cloud was rapidly disappearing. The lightning punishment is over. It was as if God had stuffed a huge question mark into Chu Yang's mind, causing him to have 100,000 whys in an instant. Why is the lightning punishment over? In total, the lightning punishment has only struck 3 times, right? What does this mean? What will happen next? Chu Yang's mind was filled with bewilderment, and he was about to go crazy. The Ice Kuan was completely dumbfounded. Not to mention Chu Yang, even he couldn't understand what was going on. What the hell? What the hell? Chu Yang had just started cursing when he suddenly froze. 2 voices rang out at the same time. But these 2 voices were identical. In fact, they were exactly the same. Both voices knew his own voice, and there was no doubt about it. When he realized the reason, he was completely petrified. The Dharma idol, it was his Dharma idol. His Dharma idol had just made the same voice as him. What the hell is going on? The Dharma idol was no longer the condensation of spiritual power, nor was it the embodiment of martial arts. It had become a person, a living person, a living person, another living person, equivalent to Chu Yang's doppelganger. The saint fetuses have turned into my Dharma idol, and that's why the Dharma idol turned into a living being. Chapter 1953. Chu Yang's Dharma form had everything he had: the Destiny Twins martial spirit, the saber and sword martial spirit, the dragon martial spirit, the 21 spirits, the god spirit, the devil's spirit, the 100 grotto heavens, the cultivation of the heavenly spirit world, the cultivation of the god's world, and his Tai Chi and Wuji Dao. His Dao and everything about him were all in the Dharma form. It could be said that the Dharma form was the same as his deity, the same living creature and the same person. Kuan, can you help me? Can you answer my questions? How could the Ice Kuan know? The Dharma form turning into a living creature was unimaginable and unprecedented. Am I considered to have failed? Chu Yang didn't even understand this question, but it should be a failure. His Dharma form was exactly the same as his, and its cultivation was only in the transcendence realm, which was a far cry from the sage in his imagination. It shouldn't be a failure. It's just another change. The Ice Kuan finally spoke. Master, you used the divine fetus to withstand the thunder tribulation of the transcendence realm, and you used yourself as the Dharma form. The combination of the 2 evolved this scene. Chu Yang was stunned for a moment before he said, Kunkan, you mean that the damned heavens saw that the thunder punishment couldn't do anything to me, and didn't want me to have 5 saints clones at once. So, they simply stopped me from succeeding and closed the shop. It seems to be the case. The Ice Kuan smiled bitterly. How could there be so many thoughts in the operation of the Great Way? The operation of the Great Way was like a seed sprouting, growing tender leaves, and growing into a small sapling. You mean, I shouldn't have used the 3-character classic to fight against God from the very beginning? Chu Yang was very disheartened. His sage avatars were gone, and he wanted to cry but had no tears. Master, don't you think that this Dharma form is actually more amazing than the 5 sage avatars? Bullshit. Chu Yang would never agree. Even if the Dharma form became an avatar, or even another deity, it couldn't be compared with a sage, especially 5 sage avatars. As long as he thought of this, his heart was bleeding. Master, your Dharma idol should be able to display your various abilities. The Ice Kuan spoke. Chu Yang replied weakly, Kuan, are you trying to say that something is better than nothing? He quickly confirmed that the avatar was just like him, able to split into the heavenly spirit world, the god's world, and the celestial and demon world. In addition, the Dharma idol was the same as his 4 doppelgangers. As long as he did not die, the Dharma idol would also be immortal. Soon, he understood the reason. Dharma idol Yi was formed by the condensation of Fa Li. At this point, as long as Fa Li still had Fa Li, he could recover. Secondly, the Dharma form contained the sacred embryo of the 5 elements. Chu Yang himself was the source of the coexistence of the 5 elements. Because of the coexistence of the 5 elements, even if the sacred embryo was destroyed, it could be recovered. Master, I feel that this Dharma form of yours is even more shocking than the 5 saint avatars. Bing Kuan repeated his point of view, but Chu Yang still did not agree with him at all. Kuan, this is not how you comfort people. Hehe, Master, this is not your style. Bing Kuan changed the topic. He naturally had his reasons for saying this. The reason why he didn't continue was that he knew that Chu Yang would definitely not agree with him. Kuan, please allow me to be sad for a while. His great expectations were dashed, and Chu Yang was in a bad mood. Without the sage avatars, it seems that I have to continue to pretend to be weak. Sigh. After a while, he began to think about what to do next. In an instant, he realized that this was not the worst. Because he had the possibility of refining the devil embryo, when the enemy estimated him, they should take the sage avatars into account. Chapter 1954. Damn it. Chu Yang was really depressed. When he saw that the demonic bell had returned to its original state, he finally felt a little comforted. He thought to himself, when the demonic bell completely digests the demon god's essence and blood, I may be able to control it. At that time, my enemy's prediction will still be wrong. What would it look like when the Ice Kuan used the demonic bell? This would be his most important support in the future. After some tidying up, Chu Yang planned to return to the Zhongtian mountain range and continue to participate in the 6 academies grand competition. There would be all kinds of difficulties and pressures. No matter how lazy he would be pushed forward by the general trend. The 6 academies grand competition was the pulse of the East continent. With a swoosh, Chu Yang left the 7-wheel demon realm under the lead of the Ice Kuan and appeared in front of Chu Fei and the others. We're in a hurry. Brother Fei, tell me your plan. As soon as he appeared, Chu Yang spoke directly. According to the time calculation, the first stage of the Zhongtian mountain range screening should be over soon. He had to go back to get some points to enter the second round of the competition. I'll go back to the barren village first and sort myself out. I'll make a decision after thinking it through. Chu Fei felt that he would be a burden if he followed Chu Yang. I'll also go back to the barren village first. The saint child also said. He also had his own ideas. The silver wolf pondered for a long time and finally made a decision. For now, without strength, anything you say is bullshit. I'll go back to the barren village first and wait until I condense the Dharma form. It was definitely not easy to condense the Dharma form of a Star Lord. Dharma form? When Chu Yang heard the word Dharma form, many ideas gushed out like a fountain, unstoppable. When an idea burst out, he said directly without thinking, you can try to condense the Dharma form of a Star Lord with your essence and blood. After saying that, he realized that his suggestion was not very careful. The reason why he had so many ideas was probably because when he was condensing his own Dharma power, he had a very deep understanding. As for the suggestion of using the blood essence of the silver wolf as the base point and then condensing the celestial Lord Dharma idol, this was somewhat similar to Chu Yang using the divine spark as the base point. The silver wolf was the descendant of the celestial Lord, and the blood of the celestial Lord flowed in its body. This should be something worth thinking about, Chu Yang quickly added. In the end, he was not sure. Anyway, when he was condensing his Dharma power, something big happened. All 5 saint embryos were gone. Blood essence as the starting point. The silver wolf was stunned and fell into deep thought. Brother Xiao Fei, second brother, since you've decided to return to the village first, then I'll leave first. Then, he looked at the silver wolf. This dumb wolf, keep an eye on him. Little brother, don't worry. Chu Yang nodded and said to Little Guari, let's go and have some fun. Yay. Lil Guari was excited. It really missed the days when it was with Chu Yang. It kept chirping, saying that it wanted to see its sister-in-law. Haha. Chu Yang laughed. He felt that Shangguan Lan would be very happy to see Lil Guari. Big brother, second brother, be careful on your way. After saying that, Chu Yang and Lil Guari immediately left and disappeared. Chu Fei and the saint child looked in the direction that Chu Yang left, and their eyes were a little dazed. Then, they said in unison, "I wonder what little brother will do this time." Chapter 1955. Thanks to the Ice Kuan, Chu Yang returned to the Zhongtian mountain range very quickly. When he returned, he found that the students of the 6 great academies were no longer paying attention to the murder of the Slayer and the theft of the sacred embryo, let alone discussing it in private. Chu Yang didn't believe in heresy. He changed his appearance and blended into the crowd. However, he still didn't hear anything about the previous events. The students were all discussing who was more shocking, who was more powerful, and who was more dazzling in the first stage. It could be said that there was no trace of such major events as the murder of the saint and the theft of the sacred embryo, as if they had never happened at all. Amazing. What a good method. Chu Yang was shocked. He hadn't left for a long time. In fact, it had only been 2 days. However, everything had calmed down in these 2 days. He couldn't help but marvel at the other party's methods. The enemy in the dark is really amazing. He still didn't know who the enemy in the dark was, but in his opinion, it should be soon. After that, he temporarily ignored everything and looked for Hao Haodong, Ou Lajing, and Kui Xinhu in the Zhongtian mountain range. To be honest, he was a little worried about the 3. Although the 6 great academies combined tournament had some bullshit inspection team, it was useless against the people of the Eastern Wilderness. It was even the butcher's knife for the people of the Eastern Wilderness, so Hao Haodong and the other 2 were very likely to be killed. Chu Yang searched around but couldn't find any trace of the 3, nor could he hear any news about them. In the end, seeing that the first round of the screening was about to end, he could only go and grab the points first. To enter the second round of the combined tournament, the points were the only criteria. As for the points, it wasn't difficult for Chu Yang, and he didn't rob recklessly. His original body and Dharma idol each transformed into 4 major doppelgangers, and the other 8 doppelgangers all looked like Kui Xinhu and the other 2, wandering in the Zhongtian mountain range. The results made him even more worried about Kui Xinhu and the other 2. After the 8 doppelgangers changed into their appearances, once they were found out that they were from the Eastern Wilderness, they would be easily ridiculed, and targeted. Many people even wanted to kill the 3 of them, and they were quite arrogant and presumptuous. Of course, Chu Yang would gladly accept their points. However, for those who mocked and ridiculed him, Chu Yang would directly hit them and rob them of all their points. As for those who despised and targeted the Eastern Wasteland, he would directly strip them naked and hang them up to dry. As for those who wanted to kill Kui Xinhu and the other 3, Chu Yang directly killed them. Because of Chu Yang's various actions, the combined tournament of the 6 academies, which had just returned to normal, once again deviated from its track, and once again caused the entire 6 great mountain ranges to be in turmoil. Almost everyone knew that Chu Yang did it, and it announced that Chu Hang, who had been silent for a long time, had begun to take action. Those who despised the Eastern Wilderness had to restrain themselves a lot, and they didn't dare to say anything. Many students of the 6 academies were killed, which made the students of the 6 academies more anxious than the death of the holy disciples, because each of them could become the next 4 people, and in the end, it almost caused the inspection team of the 6 academies to collapse. According to the results of the investigation, the inspection team could guess who did it, but they didn't have any evidence and couldn't do anything. Previously, they didn't do anything and allowed the students of the 6 academies to wantonly bully the people of the Eastern Wilderness. This time, they directly exploded, and in the end, there was no way to clean up the mess, leading to such a situation. The inspection team didn't even dare to release the news that all this was done by Chu Yang, because if that bastard knew, he might target them and kill them too. Chapter 1956. The matter did not end there. There were still students from the 6 great academies being killed. However, as time went on, the other party became more presumptuous, killing people and leaving messages. "I'm not targeting anyone. The 6 great academies are all scumbags. It's not that the inspection team doesn't work hard, but the enemy is too cunning. Inspection team, come and catch me. Otherwise, I'll feel no pressure." Many messages left behind made the inspection team lose face, but the flustered hearts of the students from the 6 great academies calmed down again because they already knew who was causing trouble and why. After all, many people had died, and they could finally find out something. Those who were killed seemed to have one thing in common, which was that they were not friendly to people from the eastern wilderness. In addition, Chu Hang appeared again, so everything seemed to have an answer. When everything was clear and there was an answer, they naturally would not be nervous anymore. As long as they did not cause trouble, nothing would happen. Then there was nothing to worry about. Of course, there were also people who were not afraid of Chu Yang and clamored, but in the end, they were all killed without exception. However, there were more and more clamoring voices, which made Chu Yang realize that there was a long way to go before the East continent recognized the people from the eastern wilderness. As time passed and many things happened, the first stage of the selection of the 6 Great Academies Alliance competition finally ended. In the first stage, many students from the 6 Great Academies were killed. The number of people who Chu Yang killed with killing intent in the eastern wilderness was negligible. Many students died in the fierce competition and fighting. Therefore, the credit naturally went to the rules of the competition, to the inspection team, and to the 6 Great Academies. In the end, there were many people who could enter the second stage of the competition, but at least 3/4 of the students were not selected. Only 1/4 of the students entered the second stage of the competition. The second stage of the 6 Academies Alliance competition was the arena martial arts competition, and the final winner would be decided. This was also the highlight of the 6 Academies Alliance competition. At the place where the students of the 6 Great Academies gathered, there was a hubbub of voices. The noise rose like waves of hot air, and then turned into water vapor to clean the sky. "Isn't that the 3-day wild dog from the Sky Academy?" Suddenly, a voice rang out, suppressing all the clamor. Everyone turned their gazes over and saw Kui Shinho's group of 3 flying over, getting closer and closer. In an instant, the 3 of them became the focus of everyone's attention. They actually dared to appear. How dare you? With Chu Hang holding the fort, there's nothing they wouldn't dare to do. More voices came out from the crowd. Chu Yang was in the crowd and saw that the 3 of them were somewhat weak, as if they had just recovered from a long illness. He couldn't help but narrow his eyes, they had just recovered from serious injuries. Who did it? As soon as Chu Yang's voice came out, everyone couldn't help but look over. Chu Hang. It was actually Chu Hang. Boom. The crowd was in an uproar, and then the people around Chu Yang quickly retreated like the ebbing tide. No one knew when Chu Yang had appeared in the crowd without anyone noticing. When Chu Yang opened his mouth to speak, he had soundlessly restored his original appearance. That was why it was so abrupt just now. Seeing Chu Yang, Kui Shinho's group of 3 were shocked, and then resentment, shame, and all kinds of emotions appeared. In the end, they blushed and said with thick necks, "Those things in the eastern wilderness are not good enough. We'll find our own place." Okay. Chu Yang saw the shame of the 3, so he only said this word. Chapter 1957. The hoarse voice rang out, and the people there stepped aside. Immediately, a young man in the undead spirit realm with 6 fingers on each hand and a cultivation base of about 25 or 26 years old, wearing the uniform of the Myriad Academy, entered everyone's eyes. Many people were shocked and thought to themselves, it's one thing to bully those 3 people from the eastern wilderness, but he actually dares to be so arrogant in front of Chu Hang. Li Qianli. Oyu Lajing gritted his teeth and said word by word, as if he was gnawing on the flesh of the person called Li Qianli. "What, wild dog, do you hate me very much?" Li Qianli said with a smile, "You want me to force you to eat dog shit again, don't you?" Haha. He suddenly laughed. "A dog can't change its habit of eating shit. I'm helping you. Wild dog, why do you hate me so much?" Li Qianli actually forced that person to eat dog shit. Many people, especially the students of the Sky Academy, felt their heartstrings tremble at this moment. They almost couldn't breathe, as if they had encountered some kind of great horror. It's over, it's over. Li Qianli will definitely suffer. If he dares to force the people from the eastern wilderness to eat dog shit, Chu Hang will definitely let him. This Li Qianli has eaten all the dog shit in the world. The atmosphere became incomparably tense in the blink of an eye. Then, many people started to watch this scene in a mocking manner. They wanted to see how Chu Yang would deal with this. They wanted to see whether he would be able to regain his face and reputation. Was he as amazing as the rumors said? Chu Yang had a great reputation, but there were still many people who questioned him. There was never a lack of arrogant people in this world. Yu Lajing trembled with anger, and his face turned red with shame and anger. Oh, what are you angry about? It's shameful to eat dog shit, but not everyone can have such a temperament, and few people can bear such shame. I'm proud of you. Who else could it be other than Chu Yang who had spoken? At this moment, when he looked at Oyu Lajing, there was no smile on his face, nor was there his usual sloppy attitude. Instead, there was an expression of pride. Chu Yang was naturally very angry. Not to mention brothers, friends, underlings, or anything else, at least Oyula was his admirer. Just this reason alone was enough. He didn't need anything else. Of course, what he said wasn't empty words. It was sincere, and he agreed with it greatly. Life was precious, and humiliation was hard to bear. It was not shameful to bear such humiliation in order to protect one's own life. Go Jian had endured hardships, and his story had been passed down through the ages. This was the best example. The eastern wilderness. Oyu Lajing was stunned. Then, his body trembled violently. There was no disappointment, humiliation, or embarrassment that he had imagined. There was only affirmation and recognition. He had never expected this, so he felt even more ashamed at this moment. If you feel incomparably humiliated, if you feel incomparably ashamed, then this will become your supreme driving force in the future. I'm sure that in the future, you will be proud in the East Continent, and no one will dare to look down on you. Chu Yang's voice was powerful and resonant. Every word was incomparably clear. Every word was encouragement, every word was expectation, and every word was incomparably affirmative. I will. Chu Yang finally laughed. Louder, tell everyone in the East Continent your goal, your ambition. Oyu Lajing heard this, clenched his fists and roared, I, Oyu Lajing, must wash away my shame, stand proudly in the East Continent, and become the most supreme existence in the East Continent. Chu Yang laughed even more happily. He believed that Oyu Lajing could do it. If you asked him what basis he had, how could he be so sure? He had no basis, but it was not empty. Nothing in the world was difficult for a determined person. Haha. Chapter 1958. Li Qianli laughed so hard that tears were about to flow out of his eyes. He looked as if he had seen the funniest thing in the world. Is it very funny? Chu Yang also laughed. Many people in the Sky Academy were so familiar with his laughter that they all shuddered. Chu Hang is angry. Li Qianli will die soon. The cultivation of the dead spirit realm was very intimidating, but for Chu Hang, the dead spirit realm was just a fart. Although Chu Hang's current realm had not reached the level of a fart, it would be a piece of cake for him to kill a martial artist in the dead spirit realm, and he had thousands of means to do so. However, no one knew which one Chu Hang would choose. Humph. Of course, Li Qianli heard Chu Yang's sarcasm. He stopped laughing and couldn't help but mock. Wild dog, you have a little reputation. Do you think you are so great? You are still just a wild dog. Many people in the Sky Academy couldn't help but cover their eyes. They couldn't bear to see Li Qianli courting death. What? Am I wrong? Li Qianli pointed at Chu Yang directly and sneered, I heard that you killed 3 martial artists in the dead spirit realm and even 3 in the life realm. If you have the guts, why don't you try to kill me? The news that Chu Yang had killed 3 martial artists in the life realm and 3 in the dead spirit realm had been spreading before. Because it was related to the death of Saint, almost everyone knew about it. However, not many people believed it when it was confirmed that the one who killed Saint was not Chu Yang. Li Qianli obviously wouldn't believe it. He would never believe it. Chu Yang laughed even more happily. It's not true. Thank you for your statement. This was indeed the truth. The 3 martial artists in the life realm were killed by Shangguan Lan. Since you know that you are no match for a martial artist in the dead spirit realm, how dare you be so arrogant in front of me? Li Qianli noticed that Chu Yang's sarcasm was getting worse, and he couldn't help but get angry. It seems that I have to let this wild dog eat dog shit. You actually believed Chu Hang's words? Many students of the Sky Academy were really shocked by Li Qianli. Some of them even wondered if this guy was a fool. This is a very good suggestion. Chu Yang looked at Li Qianli as if he was looking at a clown. He wasn't angered, and instead, his smile became even more radiant. Therefore, I suggest you go look for dog shit. The more the better. Very good. Li Qianli roared. He was completely enraged by Chu Yang's contempt. I've already prepared a lot of dog shit. I guarantee that you won't be able to finish it. Bring me the dog shit. As soon as he finished speaking, someone walked out from behind Li Qianli and used his magic to move the dog feces out of the spatial ring. In an instant, a pile of dog poop the size of a small hill appeared in front of everyone, causing everyone's eyes to widen. So much dog shit, I've worked so hard to find it. How can I find so much dog shit if I don't spend a lot of time looking for it? In addition, Li Qianli didn't hesitate to use the spatial ring to store the dirty dog shit. He hated Chu Yang very much. Oh, he's definitely a moron, a super moron. There's no need to guess. The next program must be eating dog shit. That moron is so well prepared. How can he escape? I haven't seen it before. I really haven't. I really haven't seen anyone courting death like this. No, I haven't seen anyone looking for dog shit like this. At this time, many people of the Sky Academy were completely convinced by Li Qianli. They were convinced by his wisdom and his ample preparation. You can start eating now. Chu Yang looked at the mountain-sized pile of dog shit and couldn't help but sneer. You want me to eat dog shit? Li Qianli pointed at himself with a very playful expression. Then he laughed loudly. Haha, wild dog, I heard that you're very arrogant. This rumor is not wrong at all. Chapter 1959. Everyone in the Sky Academy knew what such a smile meant. They thought to themselves, it's starting. Chu Hang is starting. Wild dog, it seems more appropriate for me to say this. Li Qianli took out a knife, licked the wound on the blade with his tongue, and smiled strangely. Oh, I need to prove myself, right? Chu Yang said to the people present, everyone, can you prove it for me? No one said anything. Chu Yang continued, if no one objects, then you all agree. Please start to prove it for me. What's going on? Many people were dumbfounded. Why did the fire suddenly burn them? They were just watching the show from the side, but they didn't make a single sound. This wasn't appropriate. Wild dog, do you think it's not enough for me to deal with you alone? Do you want to anger everyone? Li Qianli's strange smile turned into a sneer in an instant. Chu Yang's contempt for him made him furious to the extreme. Li Qianli was directly ignored. Everyone, do you have any objection to proving it for me? Chu Yang said to the crowd, do you want me to invite someone to prove it for you? There was still no sound from the crowd. Chu Yang didn't wait and said directly, in this case, I can only invite little cutie. Little cutie. Hearing these words, someone immediately shouted, Chu Hang, I'm allergic to cuteness recently. I really can't stand little cutie. Chu Hang, can't we prove it? Do you want us to cry in front of you? Yes, we will prove it. We will prove it. There's no need to disturb little cutie at all. Everyone in the Sky Academy knew little cutie too well. As soon as little cutie came, they would probably all die. Because little cutie was so cute that she wanted you to die directly. Once the thunder tribulation was triggered, according to the level of Chu Hang's thunder punishment, no one could survive. Little cutie, isn't it just a thunder tribulation? Who are you trying to scare? By the time you've fully triggered the lightning tribulation, we'll be long gone, you idiot. Do you dare to trigger the lightning tribulation? If you trigger the lightning tribulation, even if all of us die, you will die too. I thought you were capable of something. Originally, a few arrogant people began to clamor, but they were soon rudely interrupted and drowned out. You idiot, shut your mouth right now. Don't you know that Chu Hang has already flipped out? The students of the Sky Academy were so agitated that they cursed loudly. Encountering one retard was already bad enough, but encountering a whole bunch of retards. He was really going to be angered to death, scared to death. There are 2 shortages every year, but there are a lot of them this year. If you don't know, you can die on your own. Don't come out and harm others. Do you know why the lightning tribulation is called Little Cutie? Chu Hang's lightning tribulation comes as he pleases. Why is Chu Hang called Chu Hang? Read more books and be more careful. Chu Hang dug a hole, but you still fell into it. Idiot, are you blind? Chu Hang even dared to argue with the inspection team. How dare you doubt his courage? Was your mother very sad when she gave birth to you? All of a sudden, many people jumped out excitedly and cursed loudly, and more people behind them cursed loudly. Lightning tribulation. Buzz. Li Qianli's mind was buzzing. When he thought of this, his mind went blank. Chapter 1960. Boom. Immediately, there was a deafening roar. Almost everyone in the Sky Academy was afraid that their expressions were not profound and vivid enough and Chu Hang would catch them. Senior brother from the Sky Academy, is it so serious? A student of the Heavenly Sword Academy expressed his doubts. What do you think? The man from the Sky Academy immediately roared, "Get away from me quickly. Don't tell me that Chu Hang is not a cheat, not powerful, and that Chu Hang will definitely die and so on." I was so frightened that I could see through these illusions. The Heavenly Sword Academy was almost dumbfounded. He thought, there are so many illusions about Chu Hang. He looks very powerful and terrible. Senior brothers and junior brothers of the 5 academies, let me remind you that Chu Hang has gone mad. Chu Hang has already gone mad. Don't be fooled by his smiling face. It's an illusion, absolutely an illusion. Chu Hang has gone mad, and the consequences are very serious. Chu Hang has gone mad beyond your imagination. The Sky Academy repeatedly emphasized Chu Hang's ferocity and cruelty, but in the end, some people still did not believe it. Even if Chu Hang triggers the thunder punishment and we all die, he won't recover. Yes, he should be a little afraid. I don't believe he has the guts. Being questioned, the people from the Sky Academy couldn't help it. Did Li Qianli lend his brain to you? The point is that we die first, understand? Are you born and raised by your parents? Didn't they tell you what an illusion is? Chu Hang is very timid. This is an illusion. Before doubting Chu Hang's guts, why don't you doubt your amazing IQ and Li Qianli's brain first? If he kills us, Chu Hang will definitely die. This is definitely an illusion. Even if all of us are killed, our 6 great academies will almost collapse, but I can tell you clearly that Chu Hang will definitely not die. When Chu Yang heard the roars of the crowd, his eyes suddenly lit up. He said, "This sounds like a good idea. Why don't we invite little cutie?" Don't. Chu Hang, let's talk this out. No. Chu Yang shook his head and said, "It was you who reminded me that killing a few kittens and puppies cannot fundamentally change the situation in the eastern wilderness. We need to kill a lot of people." He was truly tempted. If he triggered the lightning tribulation and killed almost everyone in this level of the 6 great academies, then the 6 great academies might collapse. Even if it did not collapse, the strength of the 6 great academies would definitely be weakened to the extreme. Although there were many people in the middle and lower levels of the 6 great academies, they were too weak. Although the holy disciples in the upper levels were very strong, there were too few of them. Many people saw Chu Yang rubbing his chin and pondering. His eyes were shining, and he looked like he was tempted. They were so scared that cold sweat broke out. Suddenly, someone jumped out and shouted, "This is also Chu Hang's illusion. Chu Hang is going to attack, Chu Hang is going too far, and so on are all illusions. Don't provoke, don't attack, and don't run. Don't let Chu Hang get hold of your weakness. Stay calm. Yes. This is Chu Hang's illusion. Chu Hang's routine. He usually gives you an illusion and makes you jump. If you let him attack, he can use this opportunity to attack. After killing us, he will pretend to be obedient and say that he had no choice. Stay calm. Chapter 1961. Calm down. Li Qianli thought it was funny, and there were many people who found it funny. Amidst the hubbub, many people quietly watched this scene. They watched as Chu Yang became the center of attention, as well as the dazzling light on Chu Yang's body. Their eyes were filled with coldness. Everyone wanted to be famous and stand out. For the students of the 6 academies, the 6 Academies Alliance tournament was the best place to become famous and stand out. Once they stood out in the 6 Academies Alliance tournament, everyone in the 6 academies would know their names, and so would the East Continent. It was just that the joint martial competition of the 6 academies had not started yet. Before they could show their abilities and stand out, Chu Yang, this wild dog, had already become dazzling and snatched away all of their limelight. Humph, it's not certain who will have the last laugh. As long as I can trample on Chu Yang, I will definitely become famous in the East Continent. Everyone will know who I am. This is a shortcut, a step straight to the clouds. As long as I defeat this wild dog, the rest of the matches are not important. The divine doppelganger fruit is also not important. Defeating him is the most important. For a moment, looking at Chu Yang, who was the center of attention, the students of the 6 academies had different thoughts. They knew that Chu Yang was amazing, but it was because of this that they could trample on him and help them become famous. Once they succeeded, they would be even more dazzling and eye-catching than Chu Yang at this moment. This extremely tempting result caused many of them to feel no fear at all. Instead, their fighting spirit rose and they were very excited, feeling that a great opportunity was in front of them. Li Qianli's matter was quickly resolved. He could see Chu Yang's majesty from the Sky Resentment Institute's comical behavior, and the students of the other 5 academies could naturally see it as well. Therefore, one could imagine the pressure they put on Li Qianli. In the end, Li Qianli's choice was also obvious. As for his psychological process, Chu Yang was not interested. Chu Yang was even less interested in him eating dog shit. This was definitely not a beautiful thing. Humiliating people was never beautiful, but in life, it was inevitable that people would do things that were not beautiful. Perhaps it could be said that there was no such thing as beautiful or not beautiful in this world. The reason why something was beautiful or not was because it was artificial. However, no matter what, Chu Yang had no interest in Li Qianli eating dog shit. He was just doing what he had to do. Someone wants to see you in the eastern wilderness. He claims to be Nangong Xing's most loyal servant, Han Zhong. After the matter with Li Qianli was over, Kui Xinhu and the other 2 secretly sent a voice transmission to Chu Yang. Their first question was the most interesting to Chu Yang, but when the answer to the second question was revealed, his interest plummeted. It must be related to Nangong Xing. He had heard the name Nangong Xing many times, but he had never seen such a person, let alone know what this Nangong Xing looked like. However, Nangong Xing did not seem to be a smart person. What's his motive? To be honest, Chu Yang was not very interested. Nangong Xing's servant had come to find him either to tell him some news or to seek revenge through him. The so-called news was even more unpredictable. Perhaps Nangong Xing's servant had come because his enemy had sent him. There were too many possibilities. But Chu Yang was a little lazy at the moment. He was too lazy to use his brain to think about these problems. We're not very sure. We're guessing that he should have some important information. How did he find you? Chu Yang was very concerned about this. Chapter 1962. Such a method of contact. Such a method was very likely arranged by the enemy in advance to gain the trust of Oyu Luzheng and the other 2. After all, they were saved by others, so they would definitely feel grateful. What's the point of thinking so much? I'll get the gist of it once I meet him. Chu Yang mocked himself in his heart for a while, then said, "Where is he now?" After Oyu Luzheng told them the location, Chu Yang left under the watchful eyes of the crowd. Naturally, no one dared to stop him, and no one dared to criticize him. Of course, no one dared to follow Chu Yang, because they couldn't catch up with him even if they did. Flowing water, waterfall. A large river surged in the mountains, and the sound of water rumbled. When it reached the cliff, the water poured down and formed a waterfall, which was very spectacular. The sound of water at the waterfall was even louder, and water droplets splashed everywhere, and water vapor filled the air. The white water curtain that formed seemed to be someone's white hair. When Chu Yang arrived, he saw a person at the waterfall. This person's clothes and shoes were the most eye-catching. They were the first to enter his eyes. They were definitely not the most gorgeous clothes. They were very ordinary clothes, but they were definitely the most fitting clothes. The shoes were also very ordinary, but as long as he looked at them, He knew that there was absolutely no other pair of shoes in the world that fit his feet better than this pair of shoes. This person's appearance was not bad, and his temperament was not bad either. He could be considered a servant, but he could also be considered a young master. As long as he was willing, he could easily do both. Once he did, he would definitely do well. For example, at first glance, Chu Yang thought that he was a servant. Such ability was very impressive. Chu Yang saw this person, and this person naturally saw Chu Yang. Chu Yang went straight to the point. Chu Yang, Han Zhong. This person also revealed his identity. You are the one who killed my master. Han Zhong's second sentence was like this. His expression was full of anger, but he seemed to blame himself even more, as if he blamed himself for not protecting his master. Chu Yang smiled. This loyal servant actually pushed the blame to him. He asked, "Do I know Nan Gongxing?" "Of course not." "Do I have a grudge against Nan Gongxing?" "Of course not." "All of this is your deduction." Chu Yang shook his head. As for Nan Gongxing's death, he did not feel guilty at all. If Nan Gongxing had not caught his elder brother, the situation would have been completely different. "So, I can't say that you were wrong to want to save your brother, so my master was seeking death, right?" Han Zhong gritted his teeth and clenched his fists. Chu Yang looked at Han Zhong and suddenly blurted out, "You are Nan Gongxing, and the dead Nan Gongxing is your most loyal servant, right?" "How did you know?" Han Zhong was stunned. "I guessed." Chu Yang instantly understood all of Han Zhong's actions. Guess? There has to be a reason to guess, right? Nan Gongxing naturally didn't need to pretend to be Han Zhong anymore. He wanted to use his original identity to talk to Chu Yang and cause some trouble. "You don't have to answer this question," Chu Yang said. "If you are a servant, and your master is dead, your eyes should be filled with anger or hatred, and not guilt and self-blame. Am I right? If you failed to protect your master, shouldn't you feel guilty and self-blame?" "So, I said I guessed." It seems that being a servant, especially being a loyal servant, is definitely not an easy thing. Nan Gongxing's eyes suddenly revealed great sadness. "If I could do it, I wouldn't have left too many traces, so that you would have such a guess." Chapter 1963. When I was young, although I was a young master, I was not a young master who was valued by others. I was a useless young master. Nan Gongxing started to talk about irrelevant things. Chu Yang could only listen and listen. I think you can roughly imagine the situation of a useless young master. Chu Yang could naturally imagine. A useless person's situation would not be good, even if he was a young master. But there was one person who never mocked or ridiculed me because I was a useless person. He also never isolated me. When I was young, he became my only playmate. One day, his mother told him that he could not be disrespectful in front of young master. Then, he finally realized that he was a servant. No matter what I said, I could not change it. Thus, his words and actions changed completely. No matter where he was very respectful to me. Chu Yang roughly understood Nan Gongxing's feelings for Han Zhong. "But, you always treated him as a brother, as your closest kin, right?" "Yes." The hatred in Nan Gongxing's eyes deepened. "After I met with a fortuitous encounter, I soared to the sky. My status was completely different from before. Everyone came to curry favor, flatter, and please me. I don't even know how many servants I had. But only at times like this would they remind me not to be complacent. They even offended their superiors. At that time, I realized that he had always treated me as a brother. That had never changed. But, this brother of mine was very useless. He fell in love with a lady from a certain family, but because of his status as a servant, he missed the person he loved the most. But I could not do anything. I could only watch as he fell. So, I decided to become a person above others." Nan Gongxing said a lot. In the end, he mocked himself. "Am I like a woman? Did I let you listen to so much nonsense?" He felt that he was very strange. He had never said such words from the bottom of his heart to others. But today, he poured them out in front of Chu Yang. Perhaps, the only reason was that Chu Yang was different from others. Chu Yang laughed. Stories between brothers are always beautiful. They are never nonsense. At least, this is more beautiful than eating dog shit. Haha. Nan Gongxing naturally knew that Li Qianli was eating dog shit. He also knew that Chu Yang's brother had eaten dog shit before. Therefore, he also knew that when Chu Yang compared the story of him and Han Zhong to the story of eating dog shit, he definitely did not mean to belittle or mock him. He also liked Chu Yang's methods. If someone made his brother eat dog shit, he would definitely let that person have an endless supply of dog shit, even though it was extremely ugly. I know you are Liu San. Oh. Chu Yang was not surprised, but Nan Gongxing was a little surprised. In my opinion, you should be at least a little surprised. Chu Yang smiled. Didn't you just tell me? Nan Gongxing burst out laughing upon having this thought. This was indeed the case. When he had accused Chu Yang of killing his brother, this had already been exposed. Chu Yang didn't do anything, but Liu San did. At least, that was what people knew. At this moment, Nan Gongxing's evaluation of Chu Yang had to be raised by another level. Who is it? After a moment of silence, Nan Gongxing spoke again. Naturally, he was asking about the enemy in the dark. Chu Yang was surprised. Whose scapegoat did you become, and you still don't know? I am as stupid as a pig. Nan Gongxing gritted his teeth again. He hated himself for this. He hated that he thought he was smart, but he was completely fooled by Yi Yu. Chapter 1964. Nan Gongxing's eyes widened as he stared at Chu Yang in astonishment. I seem to have done something great. Chu Yang couldn't help but touch his nose. Nan Gongxing was not interested in this and immediately asked, "You don't know who the enemy is? How did you threaten them to hand over your brother and even force them to hand over the devil fetus?" Nan Gongxing called himself stupid, but he was not stupid at all. He knew what had happened very well. The blue moon grass is real. Just with this. Yes. Don't you think this is far from enough? Chu Yang suddenly felt that he was more powerful and incredible. I was lucky to succeed in deceiving them. They were obviously scared. So I died because of deceit. I died so easily. Nan Gongxing's expression became very bitter. In the eyes of the enemy, he was insignificant and even worthless. He could even conclude that even if Chu Yang didn't make a move, he would still die for other reasons. In fact, it wouldn't be just one person who would die. His brothers couldn't die in his place. Both of them would die. In this way, he realized that he had to thank Chu Yang. How ironic. How much of a failure. Do you want to slit your own throat? Chu Yang really didn't want to say this, but Nan Gongxing was behaving like this now. I look pitiful and ridiculous, don't I? Nan Gongxing mocked himself again. His feeling was right. Chu Yang did have a unique temperament. Are you saying that you need to be comforted? Chu Yang said, let me remind you that we are not close. To be exact, we are enemies. Haha. Nan Gongxing could not help but laugh. Then he said with hatred, I don't need to be comforted. I just need to take revenge. In the next martial arts competition of the 6 academies, they will definitely make a move on you. Then we will know who they are. That is indeed very likely, but not necessarily. Chu Yang thought about it, but he did not agree. If you can think of it, so can they. But they already think that you know who they are. What if they've already noticed? Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh. Actually, I hope that they're aware of it. If that's the case, I think they'll be very happy. Not a bad idea. Nan Gongxing sneered, however, it's far from enough to make them feel stupid. I mean, there should be such a possibility. Chu Yang realized that Nan Gongxing did not understand what he meant. Perhaps the enemy had realized that they had been completely scammed by Chu Yang. If that was the case, the enemy would naturally be fully prepared and would not take the initiative to expose himself. Nan Gongxing frowned. Are you saying that you can't find them either? I mean, you should go back and wash your brain first. Chu Yang said as he left, because he still had to participate in the martial arts competition. Nan Gongxing did not say anything, nor did he stop him. At first, he was a little angry at Chu Yang, but in the end, his anger completely disappeared. It was time for him to wash his brain. If he was controlled by hatred, he would be a useless teammate. He could not do anything and would only make things worse. The enemy was definitely not ordinary. Otherwise, Nan Gongxing would not be so miserable. He also finally understood why no one could do anything to Chu Yang. It was because not only was Chu Yang a monster, but he also never thought that his opponents were fools. In this regard, Chu Yang had done a much better job than him. It's probably a headache for them to encounter an opponent like Chu Yang. Chapter 1965. When Chu Yang returned, Li Qianli had already disappeared. When everyone saw him again, they discovered that his appearance had changed. There was an extremely cute little beast standing on his shoulder. Its transparent and pure eyes were curiously sizing up everything around it. It seemed that it had never seen such a big scene before. Isn't it usually that lousy bird? Where did such a cute little beast come from? Look at those women. What kind of eyes do they have now? They can't wait to rush up and hug that little beast in their arms. I seriously suspect that Chu Hang is digging a hole for all the women in the world. He's really going to be doted on by thousands of women. When Lil Guari appeared, many of the female students from the 6 great academies screamed even though they knew that it was Chu Hang. Especially at this moment, Lil Guari's curious look made their hearts overflow with love. At the same time, Chu Yang, who was already a little handsome, really became Chu Shui in their eyes. Chu Yang was the center of attention wherever he went. At this moment, because of Lil Guari, he was even more in the limelight. As for why little Guari was only released now, the main reason was that this little fellow's nature was hard to change, and it was hard to change its nature. If it was present, Chu Yang's killing, dealing with Li Qianli, and other fellows would probably be obstructed. Among the crowd, Chu Yang saw many familiar faces: Ji Yinmeng, Ji Yinyin, the little Zen master Fa Zhao, Mu Zizhen, Xia Wanjin, Liu Yunpeng, Xiong Longxiang, Chen Burang, Long Xiaojun, and the others. Naturally, he saw Shangguan Lan and the others again. However, before he could greet Shangguan Lan, a voice came from the side: Chu Hang, aren't you afraid that the heavens will be jealous and strike you by lightning for changing your appearance like this? Feng Pelong's short hair was in the crowd. It was obvious that Zong Jian was beside him. However, Zong Jian had returned to his original appearance. Feng Pelong's hair seemed to grow naturally. Perhaps he wanted to remember the humiliation of having his hair pulled out by Chu Yang, so his hair was still short. You benchwise jealousy, can you not express it so obviously? Chu Yang directly attacked this animal, low level. Hearing this, Xiao Guari widened her eyes and stared at Feng Pelong. Her gaze landed on Feng Pelong's short hair, leading all the female students to look over as well. Little Guari, are you ugly? Upon seeing this, Chu Yang immediately guided Xiao Guari. It nodded slightly, and Feng Pelong almost vomited blood. If this little fellow agreed that he was ugly, then he was really ugly. Among thousands of girls, he had completely become an ugly freak. It would be difficult for him to find a wife in the future. He did not dare to rebuke Xiao Guari because the consequences would be very serious, so he could only rebuke Chu Yang. Chu Hang, you're slandering me. Correct me immediately. Feng Pelong was flustered and exasperated. This matter concerned his reputation and his marriage. He definitely could not compromise on this matter, but Chu Hang had the authority. Damn little beast, one day, I'll cook you and eat you. Then, I'll get another one. That way, you'll be able to seduce women's hearts. He was extremely depressed, and he finally understood that Chu Hang was definitely an expert in this field, a top expert. Chu Yang ignored Feng Pelong and said to Xiao Guari, let's go, Xiao Guari. I'll bring you to see your sister-in-law. Yeah. The little fellow instantly became excited and kept asking, who is my sister-in-law? Ha, Lan, Xiao Guari is here to acknowledge its sister-in-law. Chu Yang laughed loudly and flew towards Shangguan Lan. That place was simply a forbidden zone for males. Other than the parrot, which was a male bird, there was nothing else. Chapter 1966. Brother Goat, is it called Little Guari? Before Little Guari arrived, Shangguan Lan's joy and affection were obvious. When Shangguan Mai saw Little Guari, her eyes seemed to turn into red hearts. They completely ignored Chu Yang's shamelessness. Little Guari is so lethal. After Chu Yang exclaimed in his heart, He smiled and said, "Yes, Lan Lan, it is little Guari. Little Guari, come to sister-in-law." In the past, Shangguan Lan would never say the two words sister-in-law in front of everyone, but because of little Guari, she said it so decisively that Chu Yang felt that he was not even as good as little Guari. Yah. As soon as little Guari arrived in front of Shangguan Lan, it bowed to Shangguan Lan. Its respectful and serious appearance made it look even cuter. Although some people did not understand its voice, most people understood that it was respectfully saying, "Little brother Chu Guari greets sister-in-law." "Hello sister-in-law." Haha. Shangguan Lan was very happy. She smiled like a flower and replied, "Good. Hello, little Guari." As she spoke, she lovingly hugged little Guari in her arms and stroked its silk-like fur, causing many of the female students present to feel extremely envious. Yah. When little Guari said to the parrot, it meant that it had not seen its little brother for a long time, which made the parrot collapse. It was a divine bird, but it had such a big brother. However, it had to obey and did not dare to fly into a rage. Before the two monkeys appeared, even if Chu Yang did not teach it a lesson, Shangguan Lan and Shangguan Mai would be enough for it. It would definitely be suppressed for 10,000 years. "Brother little Guari, long time no see." The parrot stiffened and said this sentence with difficulty, which immediately made everyone burst into laughter. Such a big brother, such a little brother. Too many people knew the parrot's character, but its big brother was completely different from it. The contrast between the two was too strong. "Oh, why is my bird life so miserable?" The parrot wailed in its heart. Yah. When little Guari saw the parrot being ridiculed, it was immediately furious. Its angry look only made the people burst into laughter. Yah. Xiao Guari was even more furious. It jumped out of Shangguan Lan's hand. It clenched its little beast claws and showed them to everyone, threatening them. However, its small appearance made it even more adorable, so how could anyone be afraid of it? This led to even more explosive laughter. Okay, little Guari, don't be angry. Shangguan Lan loved little Guari. Anyway, little Guari isn't afraid of being laughed at, right? The parrot was sweating. Fortunately, it didn't rebel just now and obediently called him Big Brother Little Guari. Otherwise, the consequences would be unimaginable and unimaginable. Yes. Sister-in-law is absolutely right. Their laughter only proves that this divine bird is deeply loved and envied by all. The parrot then said, "I'm just worried that they will be jealous of some people until they die." Dead Chu Hang, undead parrot. The parrot had already begun to shift its focus. Sure enough, as soon as it finished speaking, countless man-eating gazes fell upon Chu Yang. He who wishes to wear the crown must bear its weight. Chu Yang had a peerless beauty like Shangguan Lan as his fiancée. He could only accept the jealousy of the animals. "Brother Goat, little Guari will follow me in the future. You don't have any objections, right?" Shangguan Lan suddenly smiled. Her beautiful eyes emitted light as she looked at Chu Yang. Chu Yang was directly speechless. He didn't have any leeway to choose. Shangguan Lan's tone was completely non-negotiable. She was just informing him. Chapter 1967. Woo. While everyone's attention was on Chu Yang and the others, the horn in the martial arts arena was blown. Dong. At the same time, a strong drumming sound was heard. The drumming sound seemed to be used to boost the morale of the army when they were charging. It made people's blood boil. The martial arts competition of the 6 academies had finally begun. The horn was blown and the drums were rumbling. In an instant, everyone's focus was on the rostrum in the center of the martial arts arena. The martial arts arena was very vast, like a grassland. The arenas were like yurts set up by herdsmen, densely packed and innumerable. The staff in charge of the martial arts competition were like a flock of sheep on the grassland. There were at least tens of thousands of people. The martial arts competition of the 6 academies was the biggest event in the East continent. The students who passed the assessment will now enter the arena. A loud and old voice rang out, clearly reaching everyone's ears. Let's go in. I want to see who will be the champion in this martial arts competition. Years of hard work, and now it's time. Perhaps it was because of the drumming, the students of the 6 academies were all fired up and quickly entered the arena. In an instant, a huge crowd poured into the huge martial arts arena. The scene was so grand that it was difficult to describe it with words. And these were only the students who passed the assessment. Naturally, those who didn't pass the assessment could also enter, but they had to wait until all the examinees had entered the martial arts arena. It was Chu Yang's first time seeing such a scene. It was very shocking. After all, the students of the 6 academies were gathered together. There were too many people. I have to surpass so many people. Can I stand at the peak of the East Continent? For a moment, Chu Yang's heart was filled with heroism. For most men, supreme power and prestige were what they yearned for. Chu Yang was no exception. Success and fame, bringing glory to one's ancestors, existed in every world. The difference was that in the heavenly spirit world, success and fame were martial arts cultivation. It was a powerful strength that few could reach. Brother Yang, let's go in too, Shangguan Lan said. Chu Yang nodded and followed the crowd into the martial arts practice field. Countless experts and countless streams of people rushed into the huge training field like a torrent. There was a spectator stand high up in the sky above the martial arts practice field. The top of the stand was sealed, and it was impossible to sense the people inside. However, there were many powerful auras coming down from above. The grand competition of the 6 academies was a grand event. Many families and sects in the East Continent came to watch and learn. Even people from the Central Plains came. Maybe the inspector of the East Continent was among them. If it was a patrol envoy, then the leaders of the 6 great academies would definitely be accompanying them. In addition, many people from the East Continent had rushed over after hearing the news. After all the participants had entered the arena, they would also enter the martial arts arena. The scene was extremely grand. In the sea of people, the examinees of the 6 great academies were quite easy to recognize. They could be identified by the uniforms they wore. The uniforms of the Sky Academy had a 5-colored auspicious cloud on the cuffs. The Sky Sword Academy had a sword. The Star Academy had stars embroidered on it. The Myriad Academy had 4 symbols. Chu Yang was in the middle of the surging crowd. He felt as if he was a fish in a school of fish. Powerful auras were everywhere around him. Various kinds of lights were flickering at all times. There were endless voices of people. So much so that he didn't know which direction he was in. There were too many people. Chapter 1968. If the East Continent is like this, what about the Middle Continent? Chu Yang couldn't help but think that the Middle Continent should be even more magnificent than this. Then, he suddenly smiled. He seemed to have been out of the country, and the scene at the beginning of the God Realm was even bigger than this. The only difference was that he didn't have such a feeling at that time. Brother Yang, it seems that the patrol inspector is here because of the saint's death. You have to be careful. Shangguan Lan's voice sounded in his ears. He came back to his senses and couldn't help but smile coldly. Of course, he understood this very well. It didn't matter whether the patrol inspector came or not. What was important was that Shangguan Lan was telling him that the so-called patrol inspector definitely didn't like him. It seems that I'm already so handsome in the Middle Continent, and I'm very famous. Shangguan Lan could only roll her eyes at him. Well, I thought you would give me a comforting kiss, but it seems that I thought too much. Chu Yang began to show off. My heart is really hurt, because of Xiao Guari, and because Shangguan Lan was already used to Chu Yang like this, she actually didn't have the face to kiss him. This made Chu Yang realize that he seemed to be able to be more presumptuous in the future. Quiet down. Sage Master and the other Academy Masters of the 6 academies appeared in mid-air and spoke to the audience. Immediately, the clamor of the crowd slowly calmed down. Now, I'll announce the rules of this martial arts competition. It's very simple. Life and death are not allowed. Everyone will rely on their own abilities. The winner is the king. Boom. Suddenly, the audience was in an uproar. The rules were completely different from usual. This martial arts competition of the 6 academies actually didn't allow life and death. In this way, Wouldn't every martial arts competition become a battle of life and death? This was no longer a martial arts arena. It was clearly a battle of life and death. All of them had become gladiators. These are the rules of this martial arts competition. In addition, Sage Master's voice paused. In mid-air, he immediately said, "Where is Chu Yang from the Sky Academy?" As soon as these words came out, everyone was shocked again. What was going to happen? The 6 Academy's patience with Chu Yang had reached its limit. Were they going to attack Chu Hang? Wang. Chu Yang's mind exploded. He seemed to have forgotten that this was not the Sky Academy, and no one could guarantee his safety. Sima Jian was in the Sky Academy, but who was here? If the 6 great academies were to launch an attack, what would they do? Kuan, it shouldn't be a problem to escape from here, right? Fortunately, Chu Yang still had Bing Kuan, a saint who was proficient in spatial techniques. "Master, it shouldn't be a problem," Bing Kuan said. "If I want to leave, no one should be able to stop me." "That's good." Chu Yang narrowed his eyes and waited for the rest of the story. In an instant, the Sage Master and the other Academy Masters of the 6 great academies found Chu Yang. "You're Chu Yang, right?" Of course, there was no need to ask this question. However, in order to appear solemn, he had to go through the procedure to confirm. "Are you talking about Chu Yang in the Eastern Wilderness? Then I'm him." Chu Yang spoke calmly in front of the 6 courtyard masters and everyone's gazes. There was no trace of panic, nor was there any trace of uneasiness or apprehension. It seemed that no matter how great the pressure from the crowd was, he could still bear it. Listen carefully. In this martial arts competition of the 6 great academies, you can't trigger the thunder tribulation. Do you know that? Especially Chu Yang, who was especially targeted. In the competition of the 6 great academies in the East Continent, if the 6 great academies targeted a student like this, they would definitely be struck by lightning. Chu Yang wanted to laugh, but after all, he was under the eaves and had to bow his head. His current strength was still too weak. Otherwise, he would have done it directly. Chapter 1969. Why am I special? Not everyone had the courage to ask this question in such a situation. At least, most of the people present didn't have the courage. The sage sovereign looked at Chu Yang coldly as if he was looking at a pile of shit. He didn't hide his disgust for Chu Yang at all. This is the place where the students of the 6 academies gather. If you trigger the lightning punishment, who knows how many people will be involved and lose their lives? Considering this, what other questions do you have? So that's how it is. Chu Yang smiled. This consideration is indeed thorough. He was very unhappy. Although the sage sovereign's words were very reasonable, he was still unhappy and wanted to retort. "You're bullying me because my cultivation is low and I'm not strong enough. I can't show off my skills in the competition. I won't let you succeed." Chu Yang's anger was still rising. He didn't plan to trigger the lightning punishment in the martial arts competition. After all, it was just a martial arts competition, and there was no need to do so. However, he couldn't accept the sage sovereign's method and attitude. "It's good that you understand. If you dare to offend me, I'll kill you without mercy." The sage sovereign's voice was as cold as ice. Every word was heavier and colder than the last, filled with murderous intent. "Good, that's great. There's no threat of the lightning punishment this time. If he meets me, I'll definitely teach him a lesson." When the sage sovereign's voice fell, someone in the crowd was overjoyed and excited. When the sage sovereign and the other 5 heard this, they couldn't help but look at each other and smile. They were very proud. Everything was as they thought. "Ha, Wild Dog is only relying on the lightning punishment. Without it, he's nothing." That's right. He's only in the transcendence realm. So what if the rumors are shocking? His realm is right there. How can he be our match? Many students of the 6 academies agreed and nodded repeatedly. Chu Yang was shocking, but his strength was still too low. As for the rumors, they were just rumors. How could a transcendence realm win against a nirvana realm? How could they deal with nirvana flames? Even if Chu Yang was very heaven-defying and could defeat a nirvana realm, how could he be a match for a death spirit realm or even a life spirit realm opponent? That was generally what they thought. Generally speaking, most people would only pay attention to themselves or the people around them. How could they pay attention to and understand Chu Yang in depth? Therefore, many people only knew about Chu Yang through rumors. They didn't have a deep impression of him. Moreover, rumors were often unreliable. This led to many people's understanding of Chu Yang to be very different. Perhaps, the discrimination between the East Continent and the Eastern Wilderness was also a very important reason for such a huge misunderstanding. The ignorant are fearless. For those who had seen or felt Chu Yang's strength before, such as the many students of the Sky Academy, Chen Burang, Long Xiaojun, and the others who were present at this moment, they could only sneer. Needless to say, Liu Yunpeng, Xia Wanjin, and Xiong Longxiang were all very pitiful. These people didn't understand why Chu Yang was called Chu Hang. Perhaps it was because the two words Chu Hang were not intuitive enough. Chu Yang hid his strength too well. What a pity. It's really a pity. In this way, stepping on this wild dog will be a big loss of prestige. The value of defeating him will also be greatly reduced. That's right. My enthusiasm is gone all of a sudden. That's unnecessary. I think the wild dog won't dare to trigger the thunder punishment in the martial arts competition. Hearing the students' complaints, the sage master and the others smiled even more brightly. They naturally knew how powerful the wild dog was, so they were afraid that no one would dare to provoke the wild dog. However, they didn't have to worry at all. Kill without mercy, haha. Chapter 1970. Wild dog, what are you laughing at? What are you mocking? Could it be that we are wrong? Who do you think you are? You're just a wild dog. Previously, Chu Yang had threatened the people of the 6 great academies with the thunder tribulation. It seemed that all their anger had burst out at this moment. Haha. Chu Yang chuckled again as his trademark. He was already in a bad mood. When the wild dog's words fell into his ears again and again, he finally couldn't hold back his anger. He ignored these noisy people and squinted at the sage. I'm very unhappy now. What do you think I should do? Boom. The crowd was in an uproar. Chu Yang dared to be so presumptuous in front of the 6 great academies and under the watchful eyes of the public. Wasn't the ha-ha openly mocking the sage and the heads of the 6 great academies? How dare this wild dog? Now you know how arrogant Chu Hang is. Those who knew Chu Yang's temperament, such as many students of the Sky Academy, shook their heads. This was only the beginning. Chu Hang had done more exaggerated things. However, their heartstrings were also taut. Chu Hang mocked and provoked the heads of the 6 great academies. If the heads of the 6 great academies didn't do anything and gave a certain response, where would they put their faces? It was destined that there would be a conflict between the two. The 6 people of the sage couldn't laugh in an instant. Their faces were gloomy. They didn't expect that the wild dog would be so presumptuous that he dared to mock and ridicule them under the watchful eyes of the public. Or I'll kill you first. Chu Yang squinted and looked at the sage with a smile in his eyes. He looked at the sage playfully. This doesn't seem to be a martial arts competition. I'll trigger the thunder tribulation and kill you first, old bastard. What do you think? Old bastard. Boom. The crowd was in an uproar again. The words old bastard were too explosive. The wild dog dared to say it. Was he crazy? Many people couldn't believe it and were extremely shocked. This wild dog not only directly insulted the Saint Master of the Sky Academy, but also threatened the Saint Master and the Academy Masters of the 6 great academies. As for the group of people who had shouted at Chu Yang earlier, they had already been drowned out by such a huge commotion. Not a single one of them remained. He really went crazy. Liu Yunpeng, Xia Wanjin, and Xiong Longxiang exchanged a smile. Therefore, they weren't very surprised. They were more surprised that Chu Hang didn't flip out. Is this bastard trying to rebel? Feng Porlong and Zong Jian suddenly felt their hearts skip a beat. After Chu Yang realized that the 6 great academies were targeting him, he became completely lawless. Shangguan Lan also frowned. Her brother Yang's temper was really not good at all. He would get angry at the slightest thing and remind him that there was an inspector of the East Continent present. Why? A tender voice barged in while the expressions of the Sagemaster and the others were extremely unsightly. Xiao Guari. Xiao Guari pointed its paw at the Sagemaster and was accusing him with righteous indignation. At first, it did not know who was right and who was wrong. However, when it recalled that Wang Bushang's father had been killed and his mother had been forced to go crazy from being locked in a dog cage, as well as its own experience, it was furious. It started to howl angrily, causing the extremely tense atmosphere to suddenly become a little strange. This seemingly harmless and extremely cute little beast was actually angry. Waraha! At this time, how could the parrot not come out to steal the limelight? It shouted wildly, as expected of my brother. If he says that these old bastards are bad guys, then they must be bad guys. The parrot shocked many people again. It was fine that Chu Yang called the Sagemaster and the others old bastards, but this damn bird actually dared to do so. It's over, it's over. It's over. The Sagemaster and the others will definitely lose their temper. Otherwise, they won't be able to get out of this embarrassing situation. Chapter 1971. Old bastard, are you mute? Why don't you say something? Chu Yang laughed even more mockingly and impudently. The Sagemaster and the other 5 didn't do anything wrong by preventing Chu Yang from triggering the lightning punishment. What was wrong was that they shouldn't have expressed Chu Yang's disgust so vividly and infuriated Chu Yang. Old bastards, why don't you say something? Why don't you go crazy? Why don't you show your dignity? Otherwise, where will you put your old face? Do you still want to use that face to show off? Chu Yang said slowly, and only his voice was left. Many people wanted to intervene to curry favor with the Sagemaster and the others, but they were hesitating. Because this seemed to be risky, and they might end up kissing the horse's leg. The Sagemaster and the others had already bloomed with a dazzling light that covered their line of sight, as if they didn't want others to see their reaction at this moment. However, there was an astonishing aura surging over there, like a stormy sea. There was even a fierce aura that was extremely frightening, to the extent that it made everyone speechless. Are you very angry? Do you want to kill people? Chu Yang's face revealed a happy smile. Then I'm balanced. You made me unhappy, and I've finally made you unhappy. Now, you should also know that if you make me unhappy, I'll definitely make you unhappy. What a painful realization. His voice rang out, so clear that it was as if his voice could be seen, and even reached out to grab it. At this moment, Chu Yang was singing like a god of songs, so everyone seemed to be completely intoxicated in his beautiful voice, and was even afraid that they would make the slightest sound and make a flaw in this beautiful voice. Chu Hang, it's Chu Hang. What a painful epiphany. Just this one sentence can make a person half dead. Xiong Longxiang was thoroughly convinced by Chu Yang. Haven't we experienced it? Xia Wanjin laughed bitterly. We have indeed experienced it. All Liu Yunpeng could do was laugh. Of all the people present, only the parrot and the others could laugh. He continued, perhaps, many people are thinking, what is Chu Yang relying on? That's right. Many people were puzzled. Xiong Longxiang nodded. But by the time they found out, it was already too late. This is also a painful realization for us. Xia Wanjin sighed. Previously, the 3 of them had also underestimated Chu Yang, thinking that he definitely did not have anything to rely on, but in the end, they were all hurt. Waraha! As soon as Chu Yang finished singing, the parrot began to laugh wildly. Then it began to sing, so you were conquered by me. Xiong Longxiang and the others realized that they had forgotten about this damned bird. This damned bird was definitely Chu Hang's super accomplice. Yah. As soon as Xiao Guari's voice rang out, everyone's attention was diverted once again. Do I have to be like little brother? Faced with Xiao Guari's question, Chu Yang had yet to speak when Shangguan Lan's threatening gaze had already killed him. He could only rub his nose and say, little bitch is different. Little bitch is unique. You should be like me, Xiao Guari, and be doted on by everyone. Brother Yang, shut up. Shangguan Lan suddenly exploded. Chu Yang realized that he was being despised by his wife, and he was very depressed. When such a matter intervened, it was as if everyone had been pulled into another world. They seemed to have completely forgotten about Chu Yang's confrontation with the Holy Master and the others until the Holy Master spoke again. In that case, you are very dissatisfied with our special restrictions, right? What do you think? The Holy Master did not care about his face and was so tolerant. It was obvious that he had already given Chu Yang a way out and eased the atmosphere. However, who would have thought that Chu Yang's tone was so unfriendly and even wanted a yard after taking an inch? There should be no way to resolve this peacefully. The Holy Master and the other 6 Hall Masters can't do anything even if they want to. Chapter 1972. What do you want? The Sage Master's voice came from the dazzling light in midair. Even though he tried his best to conceal his emotions, not wanting others to hear his anger and killing intent from his voice, even though he tightly clenched his teeth and clenched his fists, one could still hear the anger in his voice. This result left many people extremely surprised. The heaven-shaking anger they imagined didn't come. I don't want what? Chu Yang smiled and said, I just want to make you guys unhappy, just like how you are right now. But, you guys have no choice but to restrain yourself and feel extremely aggrieved. Just thinking about it makes me very happy. Shangguan Lan felt a headache coming on. Chu Yang had gone too far. He didn't leave any leeway and simply wanted to force the Sage Master and the others to death in a corner. Chu Yang obviously knew what kind of consequences this would cause, but he also knew what he was doing. If he didn't do this, how could he show the might of the Eastern Wilderness? How could he intimidate the East Continent's discrimination? If he didn't do this, wouldn't he be annoyed beyond endurance in this martial competition and have to face endless challenges? If he didn't do this, then when would he raise the prestige of the Eastern Wilderness? How long would he have to wait? The Sage Master, the 6 of them, and the Academy Masters of the 6 great academies were the best targets. To Chu Yang, challenging their prestige was the best way to raise the Eastern Wilderness. Even though his method was extreme and could be very stupid, to change the East Continent's view of the Eastern Wilderness, in his opinion, he still needed to use even more extreme methods. Perhaps only blood and death could do it. Therefore, Chu Yang felt that this was an extremely troublesome matter. Shouldering the expectations of many people in the Eastern Wilderness was an even greater burden. The Sage Master and the others might also go berserk in the next moment. Even though Chu Yang was prepared for a conflict, it was naturally best if he didn't have to. Therefore, he spoke first, I'm happy now. As for what you guys said just now, I also agree. He also gave the Sage Master and the others a small way out. As for whether the Sage Master and the others would follow the way out, he didn't really care. Since you've already agreed, you'll have to bear the consequences if you violate the rules. After saying this, Sage Master and the others actually left just like that. The students of the 6 great academies were incomparably shocked. Wild Dog had already ridden on top of Sage Master and the others, and Sage Master and the others actually had to endure it. This Wild Dog, how amazing must it be to be able to do this? Many of them couldn't help but carefully observe Chu Yang, but they didn't find anything strange about him. Maybe it's because of the Thunder Tribulation. The 6 headmasters are not leaders, and they are not saints yet. They are also afraid of the Wild Dog's Thunder Tribulation. Furthermore, the students of the 6 great academies are all gathered here. Once the Wild Dog triggers the Lightning Tribulation, the consequences will be unimaginable. Hence, for the sake of the big picture, they have no choice but to compromise. Many people found reasons to convince themselves, and these 2 reasons were indeed the concerns of the Sage Master and the 6 great academies. The matter in the martial arts practice field came to an end just like that. Although many people were extremely surprised and were discussing it in private, everything quickly returned to the track of the tournament. In the spectator stands high up in the sky, an old man in his 50s or 60s dressed in official robes sat upright on the main seat. He had a square face, sparse eyebrows, and bright eyes. The official's prestige was extremely heavy. There were 6 other old men beside him. The aura of saints emanated from their bodies, causing the space to appear incomparably sacred. These 6 old men all had the cultivation of saints. Chapter 1973. Although the leaders of the 6 academies did not participate in the specific affairs of the 6 academies and rarely asked about worldly affairs, and some students did not even know about them, they were the real rulers of the 6 academies. As for the old man in the official robe, it was easy to guess because of the 6 leaders, the inspector of the East Continent. Only the inspector of the East Continent could be accompanied by the leaders of the 6 academies. That's the so-called Chu Yang, the inspector of the East Continent said indifferently. Yes, his Chu Yang. His only in the Dharma characteristic realm. How dare he be so presumptuous? The inspector of the East Continent had naturally seen everything that had just happened. When he asked, the 6 leaders seemed a little embarrassed. The so-called Brother Baigong was a burly and tall old man with a high nose bridge and a small mouth like a woman's. However, his lips were very thick and looked a little ugly, but it did not affect his majesty. Baigong Du, the leader of the Sky Academy. Brother Sun, you may not know, but in the last war between the 2 worlds, a group of heroes in the eastern wilderness fought against the otherworldly demons without caring about their own lives and took back an extremely important passage. They controlled it and turned the situation around in the East Continent. Baigong Du explained the reason, and the Brother Sun was naturally referring to the inspector of the East Continent. A saint was definitely not to be underestimated even in the Middle Continent, so it was not an exaggeration to call the inspector of the East Continent that way. Of course, they also paid a heavy price. In the end, only one of them survived and has been guarding the space-time passage. Baigong Du continued, Chu Yang is the junior that this person thinks highly of. With his achievements in the eastern wilderness, no matter how presumptuous Chu Yang is, he has to tolerate it. It was very beautiful, but the meaning was very clear. The inspector of the East Continent naturally understood it very well. If Chu Yang was forced to die, the hero in the eastern wilderness who was in charge of guarding the spacetime passage would definitely be furious. At that time, the otherworldly demons might be attracted to the East Continent. So there's such a story here. The East Continent inspector frowned slightly. However, Chu Yang has gone too far by wantonly insulting the glory of the eastern wilderness. We still need to teach him a lesson, but don't kill him. How could the leaders of the 6 academies not understand what he was implying? I don't want to see trouble in the East Continent, especially if it attracts some otherworldly demons. As for the conflict between you and the eastern wilderness, it's best that you deal with it yourselves, but you can't cross the line. He didn't like Chu Yang, but he didn't like the chaos in the East Continent even more. The extraterrestrial demons and the war of the 2 worlds were his biggest headaches. Brother Sun is right. The leader of the Sky Sword Academy said, in this competition, someone will soon dampen his spirit and let him know that there is always someone better than him. He will learn to be respectful. Not bad. The leader of the Stars Academy also said, the East Continent can't compare to the Middle Continent, but the East Continent 6 academies have gathered many talents from the East Continent. There will definitely be someone who can defeat Chu Yang. The 6 of them talked to the inspector of the East Continent for a while before finally talking about what they cared about the most, the blue moon grass. However, no one knew what exactly they talked about. Chu Yang naturally didn't know that he had attracted the attention of the inspector of the East Continent and the leaders of the 6 academies. However, even if he knew, it wouldn't change much. After the Sage Master and the others left, Chu Yang went to Shangguanlan's side. After joking around for a while, he started to pay attention to the situation in the arena. I wonder if I can meet Gong Sunlong this time. If I can, I'll kill him and avenge my brother's arm. The competition was a battle of life and death. No one could say anything if he killed Gong Sunlong in the arena. Chapter 1974. What I did just now should have intimidated many people. How will the enemy in the dark make their move? I can only deal with whatever comes my way. I really don't like being passive like this. The 6 great academies are full of crouching tigers and hidden dragons. I think it will be difficult to suppress all the geniuses of the 6 great academies in this martial arts competition and make a name for myself in the eastern wilderness. I might have to reveal some of my trump cards. Chu Yang thought about it. During this process, he found that many consciousnesses were probing his strength. Many of them were very arrogant. After realizing that he was aware, they could not help but snort coldly. This caused him to frown. There were too many enemies hidden in the dark. In addition, he also found that many people were communicating with each other through divine thoughts, discussing something. Among the crowd of the 6 great academies, he also found that there were many hidden powerful auras. They were like hidden tigers, waiting for the competition to start so that they could appear in front of everyone like tigers descending from the mountains. Woo 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 woo. Dong 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 dong. In the martial arts arena, the sound of the bugle horn was blown again, followed by the beating of the war drums. This made the blood that had already soaked in boil again. The arena martial arts competition is finally about to begin. This time, the arena martial arts competition is a life and death competition. It will definitely be much more tragic than the previous years. The people who stand out this time will definitely be more valuable than the previous years. To be exact, no one can compare to them. That's right. This time, those who can fight their way out of the encirclement will step on the bones of countless people and set foot on the peak of glory. The crowd suddenly boiled over and became even noisier. The voices of the people reached their peak. Chu Yang waited quietly. This martial arts competition was a difficult task. It was definitely not easy for the people of the Eastern Wilderness to stand at the top of the 6 great academies of the East continent. However, it was because it was not easy that it was meaningful. If he succeeded, when the news spread throughout the entire East continent, the people of the Eastern Wilderness of the East continent would be incomparably excited and radiate a completely different spirit and appearance. When they were mocked and ridiculed by the people of the East continent, they could even use this to fight back. We are wild dog. What are you? You guys are worse than dogs. As soon as he thought of this, Chu Yang felt that the significance of this matter was even greater. In an instant, the laziness and indifference in his heart disappeared without a trace, and it was replaced by a supreme boldness that was determined to win. This matter must be done. If a god blocks, he will kill a god. If a Buddha kills a Buddha, whoever blocks him will die. Let's see how powerful the heroes of the East continent are. Why do they dare to discriminate against the people of the Eastern Wilderness? The change in Chu Yang's thoughts made him incomparably fierce in an instant. In a real sense, this was his first step in conquering the East continent. After taking this step, he would have a stronghold, perhaps even a city. Relying on this, he would be even more at ease. However, he realized that he had realized this a little too late, and he couldn't help but mock himself. Shoo, 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 shoo. The second stage of the 6 Academies Alliance tournament officially began. Many people flew into the arena, and the many fights in the arena soon began. In an instant, the sound of collision, dazzling light, turbulent energy fluctuations, and miserable screams filled the entire arena. Everyone forgot about everything else and focused on such a grand event. Chu Yang watched from the sidelines for a while. Looking at such a grand scene, his heart could not help but surge with excitement. Afterwards, he discovered that his waist token was boiling hot, informing him to go to that arena to participate in the martial arts competition. It's finally my turn. At this moment, he couldn't help but feel agitated. Let me see who can stop me. Swish. His body moved, and in an instant, he flew toward the arena that his waist token guided him to. As soon as he moved, countless people followed behind him, forming a torrent in an instant. Chapter 1975. Chu Yang had always been the center of attention. Because he had just angrily insulted the headmasters of the 6 great academies, he had become the center of attention of the people of the 6 great academies. He had become the center of attention, and his every move was being watched by many people. Therefore, when it was Chu Yang's turn to compete, he was about to enter the arena. How could he not? Countless people gathered toward Chu Yang, causing many of the arenas to be empty all of a sudden. No one was watching, so the people who were in the middle of the martial arts competition lost their spirits. Such a scene made many of the staff members of the 6 great academies in charge of the martial arts competition smile bitterly. Such a situation was extremely rare in the Alliance Grand Competition of the 6 great academies, and it caused them to be somewhat caught off guard. Because countless people were gathering toward Chu Yang, although the arena Chu Yang was in was very wide, it was still too narrow in comparison. In order to compete for a position, Chu Yang in the arena had not yet started fighting, but almost all the people below the arena were fighting. It wasn't an exaggeration to say that Chu Yang's position was the center of the sphere. The densely packed crowd from the ground and the air had completely surrounded that place. They couldn't wait to drill into the ground and watch this martial arts competition from the ground. In the end, the 6 great academies had to make changes. They suspended the martial arts competition in the other arenas, and then rebuilt the arenas to ensure that there was enough space for everyone to watch the battle. It could be said that this was the first time such a thing had happened in the 6 Great Academies Alliance tournament, and it was also the first time someone had attracted so much attention. Moreover, this was just the beginning of the martial arts competition, and all this had happened. Holy shit, Pit Chu is really awe-inspiring. The parrot's eyes widened in envy. Bab could not help but nod. Kui Shinhu and the other 2 could not help but feel a great sense of pride. Even the people of the East Continent did not receive such treatment, but they, the people of the Eastern Wilderness, had done something that the people of the East Continent had never done. They were naturally paying close attention to this battle. In the crowd, Feng Porlong, Zong Jian, Chen Burang, Long Xiaojun, Ji Yinmeng, Ji Yinyin, and the little Zen master Fa Jiao were all shocked by this scene. Unknowingly, Chu Yang's influence had become so great that it was beyond their imagination. Ha ha. Looking at Chu Yang, who was the center of attention, Nan Gongxing could not help but laugh out loud in his heart. How could such an opponent of Chu Yang not do anything? Of course, there were also people who were resentful, such as Gong's son Long. Chu Yang's power was so great that he felt even more pressure in his heart. Therefore, Chu Yang was also greatly moved. He thought to himself, it seems that this time, the significance of my victory in the 6 Academies Alliance competition is far greater than I thought. In this case, I can't afford to lose. No matter what, I have to do it. I won't hesitate to reveal my trump card. With a whoosh, Chu Yang stood still on the arena. With a flash of a figure, a student of the Heavenly Demon Academy wearing the uniform of the Heavenly Demon Academy had already stepped onto the arena. Without a doubt, this was his first opponent. Ni Yuankai of the Heavenly Demon Academy. This student of the Heavenly Demon Academy was around 30 years old and at the 7th level of the Nirvana realm. He had a cold and arrogant expression. As soon as he stepped onto the arena, he directly stretched out his hand and pointed at Chu Yang. Wild dog, quickly admit defeat. Kneel down and kowtow to me. Otherwise, I'll let you know what boundless pain is. What an arrogant person. In an instant, many people realized that Ni Yuankai was even more arrogant than Chu Yang. As soon as they met, he arrogantly pointed at Chu Yang. He was aggressive and filled with killing intent. He ordered Chu Yang to admit defeat and even wanted to kneel down and kowtow to him. Chapter 1976. Gaining the upper hand by a show of strength. It could be said that it was a tactic to despise the opponent, either to make the opponent afraid and timid, or to irritate the opponent. But no matter which one it was, once he succeeded, the opponent might show flaws in the following martial arts competitions. Chu Yang's first opponent seemed to be extraordinary, but he didn't know whether it was a tactic of his opponent or his opponent himself who despised him. If it was the latter, then everything he had done just now would have been useless. Even though he had confronted the headmasters of the 6 academies, there were still too many people who looked down on him because he was from the Eastern Wilderness. This was the result of a deep-rooted discrimination. Ni Yuankai, right? Chu Yang looked at him and said indifferently, let me ask you a question. Is this a tactic of yours? Tactic, humph. Ni Yuankai immediately snorted and said disdainfully, wild dog, I didn't call you a wild dog, so you have some kind of misunderstanding, right? I'm deeply sorry. I can tell you clearly that you don't deserve any tactics from me. You're just a dog. How arrogant. Chu Yang sneered and said, then I'll take it seriously. Don't regret it. Usually, at this time, someone would have burst into laughter, but for some reason, no one laughed. At this moment, Many people were extremely nervous. Even the students of the Sky Academy who knew a lot about Chu Yang couldn't laugh. Parrot and the others were also judging Niuankai's strength, because Chu Yang had shown enough strength before. If he didn't have any strength, how would he dare to be so presumptuous to Chu Yang? Regret. Niuankai couldn't help but ridicule. I said that you're just a dog and don't have the ability to make me regret. Later, I'll make you bark like a dog, or I'll be unhappy. He continued, Wild dog, don't think that you're very fierce. You've made a name for yourself by randomly biting people. Many people are afraid of you and even fear you. But in the end, you can't change one fact. He pointed at Chu Yang again. You're just a dog, a wild dog from the eastern wilderness. A lowly dog, a bastard dog. You're even worse than a dog from the East continent. Haha. Chu Yang was so angry that he laughed. If this is your tactic, then congratulations on your success. I've been successfully angered by you. Enrage. Niuankai sneered. Wild dog, are you saying that you're going to become a mad dog and bite people randomly? I'll knock out all your teeth. Let's see how you'll behave in the future. Chu Yang's anger suddenly disappeared. This guy in front of him was a retard. He suddenly felt sad, as if he had seen Wang Bushang's father being beheaded by Bei Chunxing again like a pig or a dog. He also seemed to have seen Cao Xiaomai being locked in a dog cage like a dog. He also thought of all the ridicule and discrimination he had encountered when he first came to the East continent. At this moment, he seemed to have realized how miserable the people of the Eastern wilderness were in the East continent, and how miserable they were. Suddenly, his anger rose up again. He had done a lot of things since he came to the East continent, but everything he did seemed to be useless. Even though he was infamous and was considered to be unfathomable by many people, a random person from the East continent dared to be so arrogant in front of him, insulting and ridiculing him. Are you familiar with dogs? Chu Yang suddenly became evil. He smiled evilly and said, What I mean is, how much do your dog teeth resemble a dog's? Can you bark like a dog? Anyone who knew Chu Yang would know that Chu Yang was very hot-tempered at this time. Even a flame of 800 miles couldn't compare to half of his anger. Wild dog, you want an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a blood for blood. You want to do everything I said to me, just like Li Qianli. Chapter 1977. You also know Li Qianli. Chu Yang was not in a hurry. So, do you also want to eat dog shit? What? Are you going to trigger the thunder tribulation? Chu Yang smiled evilly and then glanced at Niuankai. Do you think I need to tear up the agreement and use the thunder tribulation to deal with you? So, you don't have a mirror at home, and your urine is muddy. Waha. Chu Yang's super accomplice, the parrot, appeared. It attracted everyone's attention with its trademark rampant laughter, and then poked Niuankai with its wings. Hey, Eastern maggot, your father is a retard, and your mother is a retard. You are going further and further on the road of retard. You are lonely as snow at the peak of retard, lamenting that no one knows you. Today, you don't want to be lonely. You want to tell the whole world about your stupidity and create a new lower limit of retard. Little bastard, you haven't made any progress. You are not fluent in scolding, and you are so long-winded and simple-minded. You are either stupid or retard. You should learn further. Before Niuankai exploded, Chu Yang had already instructed the parrot. Haha. At this time, the crowd finally burst into laughter, but the leaders were indeed Liu Yunpeng, Xia Wanjin, Xiong Longxiang, and Feng Polong. They laughed so hard that their stomachs hurt. Niuankai's boldness relieved the pressure on them, and they also burst into laughter. The rhythm was still Chu Yang's rhythm. The parrot was still the same parrot, but it was not Chu Yang's opponent, but Niuankai. Chu Yang's former opponents were as arrogant as Niuankai, and they were even stronger than Niuankai. But what was the result? This Niuankai was nothing. When the people of the Sky Academy thought of this, they naturally felt no pressure and laughed. Are you all stray dogs too? Niuankai was furious with Chu Yang, but he was even angrier with the people from the East continent who were laughing. However, when he questioned them, even the people from the Sky Academy could not laugh at all. This was not only a dispute between Ni Yuankai and Chu Yang, but also a dispute between the Eastern Wilderness and the East Continent. Wild dog. Ni Yuankai turned to Chu Yang and said angrily, "You dare to play tricks in front of me. Now, even if you want to kowtow and admit defeat, you can't bark like a dog. I will make you beg for death. I will make you suffer all the pain and torture in the world. I declare that no one can save a wild dog like you." He was merely at the Nirvana realm. Where did his confidence come from? Chu Yang was both puzzled and angry. He said directly, "Oh, then let me see how capable you are." With a loud bang, the Dharma power in his body surged out and formed his Dharma form behind him. His Dharma form was naturally himself. This was not only his Dharma form, but also his doppelganger. To be exact, it was like his original existence. The Dharma power surged and formed another Dharma form after the Dharma form. This Dharma form was still Chu Yang's own Dharma form. Of course, the second Dharma form was not as good as the first Dharma form. After that, a third Dharma form was formed behind his second Dharma form. Chu Yang just did it on a whim, but he found that as long as he wanted, he could form endless Dharma forms. However, the strength of the Dharma form would become weaker and weaker, just like his third Dharma form. Although it still had the strength of the Dharma form, it was only the strength of an ordinary Dharma form. Of course, he was not in a hurry. No matter what, he had to teach Ni Yuankai a hard lesson and give the students of the 6 great academies an indelible memory. Chapter 1978. As soon as Chu Yang's 3 Dharma idols appeared, the parrot howled like a wolf. "Chu Hang, you're not allowed to use my divine magic without permission." It immediately recalled the past when it was ganged up on by countless Chu Yangs. Although this past was definitely not far from now, under its selective forgetting, it had already become very distant. However, one after another Chu Kang kept popping up, and the past when it was ganged up on by Chu Kang was vivid in its mind. At that time, the parrot had been mighty, invincible, and lonely as snow. The parrot's divine magic had caused Liu Yunpeng, Xia Wanjin, Xiong Longxiang, and Xiong Longxiang to cry for their moms and dads. Yes, there was no mistake. They had cried for their moms and dads. However, in that moment of invincibility, the cruel Chu Hang had appeared and used countless Chu Hangs to completely crush the parrot's might and invincibility. What made the parrot even more enraged was that Chu Yang had created countless Chu Yangs. Such a scene was like a dream to the parrot. The more the parrot thought about the past, the more it felt sad. It was on the verge of tears. Ha ha ha. Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh when he saw the parrot's sorrowful expression. It was as if the parrot really did have a sorrowful past. He realized that the parrot was becoming more and more capable of tormenting people. It was just a trivial matter, but the parrot was able to create such a tortuous psychological process, as well as such rich expressions. The parrot is the parrot. Chu Hang is Chu Hang. The Chu Hang is different. Chu Yang's Dharma idols were similar, but the parrot's Dharma idols were completely different. However, the parrot didn't care about the essence. It only cared about appearances. "Chu Hang," it cursed. "This is my divine ability. You can't take it away from me. You can't carry it forward." The parrot was really anxious. If Chu Yang created countless Chu Yangs, the parrot's unique skill would be overshadowed. How could it show off in the future? Ha ha ha, don't worry. This parrot doesn't have that kind of treatment. That makes sense. The parrot nodded. Its wings were extremely nimble as it stroked its own lower jaw. It was like a person stroking their own lower jaw, pretending to be pondering. It made people not know whether to laugh or cry. With this, everyone's attention was completely diverted, and Ni Yuankai was completely forgotten. Of course, this was also Chu Yang's supreme contempt for Ni Yuankai. "Wild dog, how dare you disregard me like this, die. Dong." Ni Yuankai fiercely stamped his foot on the arena, and the entire arena shook violently. With a loud bang, he soared up like a mountain, and then fell down towards Chu Yang. The air fiercely pressed down, forming a great pressure, and a strong wind swept out. 3 whooshing sounds could be heard as his true self, his first Dharma idol, and his second Dharma idol shot out of the area in a flash. Only the third Dharma idol was left behind. With a flash of green light, Yuankai opened his hand wide and fell towards Chu Yang's third Dharma idol. In an instant, 5 giant logs appeared in his 5 fingers, like 5 pillars falling from the sky. Wood element magic arts. Chu Yang's third Dharma idol looked at the 5 giant logs and opened his mouth. Everyone could not help but be shocked. Is that Chu Yang's doppelganger? People did not understand what kind of method this was, and they did not know that it was Chu Yang's Dharma idol. They only felt that it was condensed by Dharma power. However, it was condensed by Dharma power, and it was like a doppelganger. It was really incredible. Interesting. It seems to be very strong. Synesthesia. Chu Yang and his third Dharma power felt the same way. At this moment, when the 5 giant logs fell down, it was as if 5 gods had descended. He actually felt an immense pressure, and he felt that it was somewhat difficult to deal with. Chapter 1979. Is this the feeling of an ordinary Dharma characteristic realm cultivator facing a Nirvana realm cultivator? Chu Yang had never experienced such a feeling before, so it was very refreshing. Perhaps this feeling would allow him to better understand the martial arts system of the heavenly spirit world. This was a little ridiculous, and even a little magical. It was as if he had broken away from the heavenly spirit world's martial arts system, to the point where he couldn't feel the difference between realms. Perhaps only Chu Yang could do such a thing. After all, there weren't many people who could be as heaven-defying as him. Let's give it a try and see if we can handle it. When this thought appeared in Chu Yang's mind, his third Dharma idol had already made its move. 5 buzzing sounds were heard, and the third Dharma idol condensed 5 5-point anti-heaven stars in its hands. With a swing, the 5-point anti-heaven stars cut through the 5 giant logs. Clang! Clang! Sparks flew everywhere. The pentagram anti-heaven star, which was spinning at high speed, was like a cutting machine. However, when it cut the 5 giant trees, it was as if it was cutting 5 iron pillars. A sharp metallic sound was heard. However, that was the case in the beginning. Later on, the cutting became very smooth. The 5 pentagram anti-heaven stars completely cut the 5 giant logs in half. The power of the 5 elements against the power of the wood element. Naturally, the power of the 5 elements won. Even if Yuankai was in the Nirvana realm and the quality of his mana was higher, he still crushed Chu Yang's power of the 5 elements. In the end, Chu Yang's Dharma power was frighteningly high. It even had its own unique characteristics. Therefore, even if it was only his third Dharma power, his Dharma power was still extremely shocking. Cough cough cough. Although the third Dharma idol managed to cut through the 5 giant trees, it suffered a great backlash and coughed up blood. It was no different from real blood, making people think that it was a real person. Many people frowned. They had never seen Chu Yang use such a method before. Even now, they still couldn't figure out what was going on. They didn't even know if it was Chu Yang's real body that was fighting Yuankai. Wild dog, is that all you've got? You can't even withstand a mere recoil of mana? Yuankai was surprised at first, but at this moment, it completely disappeared, and he sneered again and again. In his opinion, Chu Yang's third Dharma power should be the strongest of the 4 Chu Yangs. The third Dharma idol spoke, but he ignored Yuankai. He sighed and said, "Is this the strength of the Nirvana plane? His spiritual power has a burning will, and it is burning my spiritual power. Interesting. Interesting? Then I'll make you even more interesting." Yuankai laughed sinisterly. His hand slammed down again, and the sound of a surging river could be heard. Instantly, a Mercury-like heavenly river appeared and flowed in the air. After that, it transformed into a devil hand filled with billowing devil chi and grabbed down like a human grabbing a chicken. What a powerful magical power! The third Dharma idol was shocked, and this feeling was clearly transmitted to Chu Yang's heart. I'm really unlucky. This is the first time I'm here and I'm going to meet this thing. I really want to curse. Since it's like this, I can only eat defeat. How can I still show off my might? The third Dharma idol looked at the surging Milky Way and the devil hand that stretched out to cover the sky. Suddenly, a gloomy look appeared on his face. His behavior was exactly the same as Chu Yang's, which shocked the parrot. In fact, this was even more shocking than the divine ability it had used to duplicate. Chu Hang, what kind of method is this? Xia Wanjin's eyes were wide open. They hadn't seen Chu Yang for such a long time in the first stage of the Six Academies Alliance tournament. When they saw Chu Yang again, he had a new method. Chapter 1980. There's no doubt about it. That guy's Dharma power must be at a heaven-defying level. Otherwise, how could he be our master? Let's not be envious of him and compare ourselves to him. Otherwise, one day, we'll feel that we're not even worth a fart. Xiong Longxiang could only smile bitterly. Chu Yang was really amazing. I finally understand how that damn bird felt. When Liu Yunpeng heard Xia Wanjin's words, he couldn't help but laugh. That damn bird is really strong, haha. In the end, the three of them thought of the parrot and couldn't help but laugh in their hearts. At this moment, the demonic hand grabbed down, and the 5 fingers shook the air. Suddenly, the air around the third Dharma power stopped flowing, as if it had been frozen. It became as heavy as mercury, and the third Dharma power in the third Dharma power was almost unable to operate. This thing, I'm not going to deal with it. My mind is not clear. The third Dharma power muttered gloomily. In an instant, it used the general principles of fire. The Dharma power of fire turned into the Dharma power of metal. In an instant, golden lines burst out. Kai, Kai, Kai. The golden lines burst out with an incomparably sharp aura. Immediately, they turned into saw teeth and crazily cut the demonic hand. Immediately, there were countless muffled sounds. The demonic hand was instantly cut open, and blood and flesh splashed out, turning into surging Dharma power. The demonic hand seemed to be in pain. It suddenly retracted, and then suddenly bounced back. Clang, clang, clang. The saw teeth of the third Dharma power were all knocked away and exploded in the distance, turning into raging flames. Cough, cough. He was once again shaken by Ni Yuankai's Dharma power and coughed up blood. When he touched the corner of his mouth and looked at the blood on his hand, he was even more depressed. He cursed, I can't even deal with this damn thing. Where am I supposed to put my face? Wild dog, is this all you've got? How dare you boast so shamelessly? Go to hell. Ni Yuankai originally only had one eyelid, so the wild dog's fire mana could be directly converted into gold mana, and in the end, it could even explode into raging flames. From this point, he could naturally tell that Chu Yang had a deep understanding of the rules of fire. However, the difference in their cultivation levels was too great. Even if the wild dog had a deep understanding of the rules of fire, he could not block his attacks. Rumble. The demonic hand slapped down, and the line of sight was blocked. When the demonic hand lifted up again, it was no longer possible to see Chu Yang's third Dharma power. Wild dog, you're so weak that it's beyond my imagination. I haven't even broken out in a sweat, and I haven't even used any of my skills, yet you're already so weak that you can't even defend yourself. Ni Yuankai could clearly feel that Chu Yang's third Dharma power had been smashed apart by him. Chu Yang's strongest move was nothing more than this, completely unable to withstand a single blow. Therefore, he really couldn't understand how Wild Dog could have such a great reputation. Boom. The crowd instantly burst into an uproar. The so-called Chu Hang is nothing more than this. Rumors are rumors after all. Wild Dog is nothing but bullshit. Although there are still 3 Wild Dog, it's just a matter of raising his hand to smash them apart. Of course, there were also dissenting voices, but they were all drowned out. Those people sneered and felt that Ni Yuankai's IQ was incurable. Since you know there are still 3 Wild Dog, don't you think it's too early to be so arrogant? Wild Dog, which kind of living sin do you want to taste first? Ni Yuankai looked at Chu Yang with disdain. Or should I say, you still have 3 bullshits. Do you want me to smash all 3 of your bullshits with one slap? Bullshits. Chapter 1981. Wild Dog, I'm going to tear your shit-eating dog mouth apart. Ni Yuankai roared furiously. At this moment, someone patted him on the shoulder from behind, which made him furious again. Get out of here. Don't you know that I'm killing this wild dog? Since you've delayed my work, I'll let you know what endless pain is. At this moment, the noisy crowd couldn't help but fall silent. They looked behind Ni Yuankai in astonishment, which made the furious Ni Yuankai realize that something was wrong. You bastard, can you be more careful? Whoosh. When Ni Yuankai heard the familiar voice, he abruptly turned his head, only to see a staff carrying an incomparably strong gale directly smashing towards his face, viciously smashing down. Before he could understand what was going on, he saw the third Dharma power with a playful face, and then his line of sight was blocked by the staff. Then, there was a muffled bang. Ah! Ni Yuankai felt as if he had been hit by a stick. He suddenly felt that the bridge of his nose had been smashed, and his face had collapsed horizontally. His tongue seemed to have been squeezed out and shot out of his mouth like a sharp arrow. Immediately, a sharp pain pierced his nerves, and he couldn't help but scream miserably. This bastard's face is really thick. I used 50% of my strength, but it didn't break. The third Dharma power's voice drilled into the ears of the crowd, but it was dead silent. What a mistake, what a mistake. If you want to blame someone, you can only blame the boss. Why did he have to make him learn to bark and eat dog shit? This is definitely a humiliation to dogs. Ni Yuankai forced himself to open his eyes amidst the excruciating pain on his mangled face. He immediately saw the wild dog that he had smacked into pieces. At this moment, the wild dog was holding a staff and chattering with dissatisfaction. Ni Yuankai looked very familiar with that staff. It seemed to be a staff used for flogging, so his face had been treated as a butt and his flesh had been torn open. Bastard, I'm going to kill you. Incomparable humiliation welled up in his heart. His hideous, blooded face became even more ferocious and terrifying as he lunged madly at the third Dharma idol. All three, this thing has transformed. I'm allergic to ugliness. It's your turn. Shua. The third Dharma idol retreated at an extremely fast speed. As for how the third Dharma power had recovered and appeared silently behind Ni Yuankai, it was naturally very simple. As long as Chu Yang did not die, his Dharma idol would not be destroyed. The third Dharma idol was formed by the condensation of Dharmic powers. Just now, the third Dharma idol did not explode, but it took the initiative to decompose into Dharmic powers and then condensed again. You're allergic to ugliness, but I'm allergic to dirt. If I'm covered in blood, I'll be depressed. The second Dharma power was also full of misgivings. He said to the third Dharma power, "Fourth brother, you'd better go find the second brother." The second one was naturally the first Dharma plane. He said, "Not only am I allergic to ugliness, but I am also allergic to dirt. Boss, what's wrong with you?" The third Dharma idol yelled at Chu Yang, "So slow. When will you be able to improve your cultivation? This marshal has been dragged down by you, it's already shameful enough. I now express my protests." This scene seemed to be directed and acted out by Chu Yang. At least, that was what everyone thought. They understood that this was to embarrass Ni Yuankai and make him unable to show his face. However, Chu Yang was already dumbfounded. My circle and that cross. My three Dharma idols all have their own thoughts and consciousness. Although they were all him, their thoughts and consciousness were not under his control. This was completely different from his avatars in the heavenly spirit world, the celestial world, and the celestial world. Chapter 1982. Fortunately, in an instant, he figured out the reason. It should be because of the 5 divine embryos. The 5 divine embryos did not belong to him. After the Dharma form merged with the 5 divine embryos, it produced such a change because of them. With such a change, there are more variables and more mysteries. Maybe, as Kunken said, my Dharma is more important than the 5 sages. At this moment, Chu Yang's Dharma form not only fully demonstrated the characteristics of his 100 grotto heavens, but also the changes in it, which was really unexpected. Third brother, you go and get that thing. Chu Yang opened his mouth and said. The second Dharma form was very dissatisfied. He shrugged and complained, "Big brother, is it okay for you to do this? You deserve to die, all of you deserve to die." Ni Yuankai was so angry that he went crazy. The wild dog dared to ridicule him like this. However, he was still ignored. Chu Yang said again, "Third brother, don't talk nonsense. If you're afraid of getting blood on you, just don't let it touch you." Good idea. The eyes of the second Dharma idol lit up, and he immediately shouted at Ni Yuankai, "Hey, that thing, you have a bloody face, and you look so ferocious. Don't you know that it affects people's mood? I say, can't you be a little more careful?" The spectators felt that this battle was very strange. It seemed that there was no need to fight at all. Chu Yang's sharp words were stabbing at Ni Yuankai's heart. Ni Yuankai was afraid that he would die of anger. However, for Liu Yunpeng and the others, this was a normal phenomenon. After all, Ni Yuankai was so arrogant just now. If Chu Hang didn't kill him, there would be a ghost. Swoosh. Ni Yuankai rushed to the third Dharma form. The third Dharma form muttered that it was boring and collapsed on its own. It turned into Dharma power and dissipated between heaven and earth. That thing, did you see that? Your face disgusts my fourth brother so much that he has to hide. Look at how sinful you are. The second Fa Xiong cupped his fists and continued, "I beg you, okay? Even if you don't think about us, you have to think about all living beings, right? Even if you don't care about all living things, you should at least think about the flowers, the grass, the birds, and the fishes, right? It's really inappropriate for you to be like this." Ni Yuankai was truly infuriated by the second Dharma body. He stared at the second Dharma body and chased after it madly, which made the second Dharma body furious. "Why don't you listen to me? If you continue acting like this, then I'm going to utilize my trump card." Ni Yuankai was fuming with anger. He was even crazier than before. "Plaything, your father is here. Don't disgust your father to death. You little thing, your mother is here. You must make her doubt her life. Doubt how she gave birth to such an ugly thing like you. I'm sorry to the heavens, I'm sorry to the earth. If she takes things too hard and commits suicide, what should we do?" Ni Yuankai roared, continuously venting his anger. He was like an injured wild beast, becoming even crazier. However, the second Dharma body was not the third Dharma body. Although the second Dharma body was also in the Dharma body tier, it was condensed from the first Dharma body. The first Dharma body was almost equivalent to Chu Yang's original body. In other words, the second Dharma body could also be said to be the first Dharma body, which reflected the cultivation level of Chu Yang's original body. Therefore, its strength was comparable to Chu Yang's. Therefore, no matter how ferocious Ni Yuankai was, how could he do anything to the second Dharma body? The second Dharma body stepped forward with the 5 elements disordered steps. It was elegant, confident, and unpredictable. It could be said that he was handsome, elegant, and elegant. What a fine young master in this chaotic world. Chapter 1983. Without comparison, there would be no harm. Seeing this, those who were cheering for Ni Yuankai were completely dumbfounded. However, they felt that they should not be blamed. After all, Ni Yuankai had been so valiant and domineering before. His murderous intent had intimidated the crowd. They did not expect Ni Yuankai to suddenly change so much, turning into a headless fly in an instant. He was so stupid that he did not even realize it. A handsome young man who can't sleep at night looking into the mirror. Chu Yang was cheering for himself. He was extremely narcissistic. "I can't sleep at night because of my handsomeness." The second Dharma idol explained the true meaning of Chu Yang's words. "Perfect, I can't bear to watch." The second Dharma idol immediately explained, "The scene is too beautiful, I dare not watch. You have unfathomable magical powers, you will not rise to the heavens. You're so awesome, why don't you go to the heavens?" The scene was too beautiful. Such mockery and ridicule was too sharp and heart-wrenching. No one could stand it. The parrot did not care about this. Its eyes were fixed. In the past, it had a tacit understanding with Chu Hang, but now it realized that its level was not good enough. Look, Chu Hang was playing by himself. It was definitely a classic among classics. It would definitely become a legend that would be passed down through the ages. Then, the parrot watched Chu Hang's firepower and could not help but sigh. Strong, strong, I can't bear to watch. Chu Yang immediately cooperated with the parrot and added, so strong, I feel pity for you. I can't bear to watch, fuck. The parrot jumped up. Chu Hang's cooperation was perfect. Didn't it show that its level was not good enough? I choose to go die, Chu Yang said again with a smile. The parrot understood it as I'll go in another language. It then asked, Chu Hang, what about the more elegant? Chu Yang thought for a moment. I'll go could be extended to I'll go. So he recited, sacrificing one's life for the country, looking death in the eye. Everyone was on the verge of collapsing. What kind of person was this? Was there anyone who mocked others like this? They looked at Chu Yang again. He was so confident and at ease, so leisurely and contented. Just by opening his mouth, he could annihilate all of them. That was truly a supreme style. On the other hand, Ni Yuankai was like a madman, a clown. She instantly felt pity for Ni Yuankai. If they were Ni Yuankai, even if they didn't find a hole to hide in, they would at least find a tofu to knock themselves to death. Keek. Shangguan Lan was completely amused by Chu Yang. She was also amused. Her brother Yang was too mean. Haha. At this time, Feng Porlong, Liu Yunpeng, and the others couldn't help but burst out laughing. Wherever Chu Hang was, there would definitely be no lack of clowns. What was supposed to be a good martial arts competition had now turned into a foul atmosphere. There was no sense of nervousness at all. Haha. More people burst out laughing. Some even laughed until tears flowed out. Who would have thought that such a martial arts competition would turn out like this? Before the martial arts competition, Ni Yuankai was paying the price for his arrogance at this moment. Chu Yang clearly wanted to make him lose face. The laughter grew louder and louder. At first, when the laughter fell into Ni Yuankai's ears, he didn't care, but slowly, he realized it. Then, his reason finally pushed away his anger and occupied a corner. When he regained his reason, he suddenly stopped. His face was burning. Dong. He angrily stomped on the arena, causing the arena and the ground to suddenly shake. His spiritual power surged, and an amazing aura filled the air. Instantly, the laughter stopped. Chapter 1984. The world suddenly fell silent. At this moment, Ni Yuankai seemed to have transformed from a teased puppy into a ferocious tiger. The aura on his body suddenly changed. From his body, an extremely powerful demonic aura instantly surged out and dispersed into the void, causing the void to rumble. The demonic aura was extremely heavy. Boom. The arena shook again. There seemed to be a great pressure in Ni Yuankai's body. The oppressive dharmic powers erupted from the pores all over his body. The dharmic powers shot out like thousands of arrows, and even more dharmic powers directly bombarded the arena. Immediately after, his entire body erupted like a volcano. Surging demonic chi surged out from his body and rushed into the sky. Shockingly, one could see a perfectly straight demonic chi that stood upright like a heavenly pillar. It completely dyed the heavens and the earth black, and the void shook endlessly. Buzz. Buzz. The buzzing sound rumbled down from the sky, and endless dharmic powers also descended. It was like a demonic river pouring down from the 9 heavens. The surrounding light also dimmed. When the crowd looked up in the sky, they saw a giant cauldron the size of a small mountain. The demonic aura around it was rolling. It rotated at high speed in the air, releasing a rainbow of 5 colors that penetrated the shroud of demonic aura and shone down. With the giant cauldron as the center, there were 5 small cauldrons the size of a house. They were green, yellow, red, black, and white, and they rotated around the giant cauldron. The giant cauldron was like a star, and the 5 small cauldrons were like 5 planets that rotated around the star. However, upon closer inspection, one would find that the 5 small cauldrons had a close connection with each other. As energy was transferred and exchanged, it formed a cycle of 5 elements. Not only that, but there was also a close connection between the small cauldrons and the giant cauldrons. There seemed to be an invisible bond that tightly linked them together. The 6 cauldrons became one and pressed down from the void like a mountain. In an instant, the entire arena was sealed. The air was completely frozen, unable to flow. The void there also seemed to have turned into a swamp, and it was difficult to move easily. This was obviously used to restrain Chu Yang's incomparably exquisite footwork. Pop, pop. The black ripples were like waves, rushing out from the cauldron and sweeping in all directions. The aura it emitted was like that of a huge prehistoric beast, making people feel as weak as ants. Giant black substance chains rushed out of the cauldron. They entered the void, but they only lasted for a moment. Then, the black substance chains turned into law lines. The huge black chain of order was a stigmata. Was this a sacred weapon? Whether it was Chu Yang or the others, they couldn't help but hold their breaths at this moment. If the 6 cauldrons were sacred tools, who could be Ni Yuankai's opponent? This is the 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldron. 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldron. Boom. Hearing that trembling voice, the crowd exploded with a loud bang. The 5 Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldrons, also known as the 5 Mother-Child Cauldrons of Hell, had once created a reign of terror in the East continent. Until now, there were still people who knew about those terrifying dark moments. The 5 Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldrons of Hell. Chu Yang had never heard of the 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldrons of Hell, but he truly felt the power of the 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldrons. In the first round of the 6 Academies Alliance tournament, I met someone who has a sacred weapon. Is this just a coincidence? Chu Yang didn't believe that this was a coincidence. He was more willing to believe that the 6 academies had done this on purpose. They wanted to severely defeat him in the first round, or even completely eliminate him. Chapter 1985. This is indeed the 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldron, but I don't think it's a divine weapon anymore. Hearing this, Chu Yang's mind shook again. After carefully sensing it, he couldn't help but relax. He didn't notice it just now, but he was shocked when he sensed that the 5 Hells Mother-Child Cauldron's aura was so strong that it felt like an abyss. Demonic Saint 5 Purgatories was killed. I heard that the battle was extremely fierce, and even 3 saints died. I heard that the 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldron was destroyed long ago. I didn't expect it to reappear. It did emit a divine mark, but it disappeared in a flash. It must have been severely injured and hasn't recovered yet. This 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldron is no longer a divine weapon. I can't determine its rank, but it should be in the Nirvana realm. Even if it's only in the Nirvana realm, it's still shocking enough. The appearance of the 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldron caused a huge commotion. Even the leaders of the 6 great academies in the sky were investigating it. As long as it's not a divine weapon, there's still a way. Chu Yang was still very serious. After all, the 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldron was a divine weapon. In order to understand the origin of the 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldron, he sent a voice transmission to Shangguan Lan, Liu Yunpeng, and many others to ask about it. He finally understood everything from Xiong Longxiang. Demon Saint 5 Hells was a demon saint from the Thousand Demons sect. He had obtained the rough embryo of the 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldron from somewhere. Although it was called a rough embryo, the 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldron had already been forged. The formation had also been set up. The only thing missing was the divine mark to make the 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldron develop intelligence. If he wanted the 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldron to develop intelligence, it would take a long time. Therefore, Demon Saint 5 Hells took a shortcut. The 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldrons were forged according to the 5 elements. The demonic sage of 5 Hells began to hunt martial artists with martial spirits of the 5 elements. He extracted their souls and injected them into the 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldrons. He hoped that the 5 Hells Mother-Child Heavenly Demon Cauldrons would develop intelligence as soon as possible. The demonic saint of 5 purgatories was a ruthless man. He massacred countless people and shocked the entire eastern continent. He became the public enemy of the Eastern continent and was hunted down by the 6 great academies of the Eastern continent as well as many saints. In the end, he died, and the demonic cauldron of 5 purgatories went missing. This isn't just a demonic weapon. It's a lethal weapon. Chu Yang's heart sank when he learned all of this. The 5 hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldron was much more difficult to deal with than he had imagined. Keek. Ni Yuankai let out a strange laugh. His extreme anger and resentment had completely turned into a playful one at this moment. Wild dog, you know fear now? Chu Yang didn't say anything. He had a question. Did the 6 great academies or the East continent allow such a demonic weapon to exist? Keek. Ni Yuankai's strange laughter became even more ear-piercing. He roared, Wild dog, you can do it, you can continue to do it, you can continue to make fun of me. Your mockery, ridicule, and disdain towards me will all become your crimes. Great crimes. You can't be forgiven. As a wild dog, you already have a great sin. Now, you're adding to your sins. You can't miss out on any of the sufferings of the infernal hell. After a pause, Ni Yuankai's roar suddenly turned into a playful one. He gently stroked the 5 hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldron and said in an extremely gentle voice, My little baby, there seems to be a hell in the deepest part of it. Wild dog, you can't escape the endless sufferings of hell. You deserve it. Chapter 1986. Half of the haze in Chu Yang's heart disappeared in an instant. Such a fierce opponent is definitely not the most difficult to deal with. I had wanted to ask you a question, but it seems like I don't need to. Hee hee. Ni Yuankai laughed. Bastard, are you going to ask me how the 5 hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldron can be accepted by the 6 great colleges and the East continent? Chu Yang frowned. Ni Yuankai obviously wasn't worried about this at all. Hee hee. I knew it. Ni Yuankai laughed sinisterly. Bastard, I was right. How dare you place your hopes on this? If the 5 hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldron cannot be accepted by the East continent, I will not dare to take it out. I can tell you now. After the 5 hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldron was destroyed, it was rebuilt by an expert. It is no longer the 5 hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldron. Are you satisfied now? I see. Chu Yang's eyes lit up. The 5 hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldron corresponds to the 5 elements and can be rebuilt into a divine artifact. This makes it suitable for him. Kuan. Dong Xuebing sent a voice transmission to Bing Kuan. Is it dangerous for me to snatch the 5 hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldron? Master, you are so handsome that I can't sleep. Do you still need to ask? Didn't you see that the second most handsome person in the world did not say anything? Bing Kuan's voice is filled with disdain. Ni Yuankai is here to give him some warmth. His master is so lucky. After filling all 13 slots, he did not get struck by lightning. Instead, he got lucky. Back then, even if he didn't have such monstrous aptitude like Chu Yang, he would never have been killed by others just because of his luck. But this master of his was different. He had monstrous aptitude and amazing luck. Haha. Chu Yang couldn't help but laugh out loud when he heard the Ice Kuan's voice. He was in an extremely good mood right now. But Ni Yuankai is unhappy with Dong Xuebing's laughter. Wild dog, laugh. Laugh as much as you can. If you don't laugh now, you won't have another chance. Ni Yuankai said in a gloomy voice, boundless hell, boundless pain, and countless torments are waiting for you. In the future, I will make sure that you will never be able to laugh. You will only be able to scream miserably in the boundless hell. You will be unable to beg for death. Is that so? Chu Yang's lips curled into a smile. I'm relieved to hear that. However, I'm worried about your IQ. Let me explain a little to you. First of all, the 5 hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldron has been reconstructed and can be accepted by the East continent. When I take it, there's nothing to worry about, so I'm relieved. Second, he raised 2 fingers and said, You said that you would put me into the 5 hells mother-child heavenly demon cauldron and make me suffer endless pain. So if I take care of you like this, I won't feel guilty anymore. After all, you're a good person, so it's hard for me to be cruel to good people. Everyone in the crowd looked at each other in astonishment. They couldn't understand how Chuyang could say such words. He still had an advantage. If he still had an advantage, it would be a joke. Ni Yuankai was also stunned. He couldn't help but point at himself, and asked Chuyang, "Are you talking about me? What do you think?" Chapter 1987. Rumble. The five-mother-child heavenly demon cauldron shook violently. With a clang, the lid opened, revealing the dark mouth of the cauldron. It was like a bottomless abyss. As soon as it aimed at Chuyang, it erupted with a powerful suction force and was about to swallow Chuyang into the cauldron. "You're just a clown. I'll let you suck me into the demonic cauldron. What can you do to me?" Chuyang didn't seem to care at all. He didn't resist at all and really let the powerful suction force suck him into the demonic cauldron. With a quangdang sound, the cauldron lid was tightly closed. Many people felt that it was incomparably unreal. There was not even the slightest bit of resistance. "Damn wild dog, you'll pay the price for your ignorance and arrogance." Ni Yuankai was furious again. Chuyang's actions hurt him deeply again. "Second brother, third brother, he's just a clown. You can't do anything to him." At this time, Chuyang's voice came out of the five-mother-child heavenly demon cauldron. Everyone was shocked. Only then did they realize that there were two Chuyang outside. "Just a clown?" Ni Yuankai was furious again and roared, "Wild dog, you'll know who the clown is very soon." In front of the five-mother-child cauldron, it doesn't matter how many clones you have, it's all useless. You're just a dog. What else can you do except for your dog teeth, dog bark, and dog poop? In the cauldron, Chuyang's voice disappeared. The second Dharma power spread its hands and said to the first Dharma power, "Second brother, boss is ignoring this clown. I don't want to either. What do you think we should do?" "That's right." The first Dharma power immediately gave a solution. "That's right." The second Dharma power agreed. "They're saying that the five-mother-child heavenly demon cauldron is not bad." The parrot suddenly said, "Clown, I'm afraid you've misunderstood, so I'll explain it to you. Also, from now on, this divine bird will no longer care about a clown like you in order to respect my own intelligence. A clown is too profound for you to understand. This divine bird can't help. Die, 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 all of you bastards deserve to die." Ni Yuankai was so angry that he was about to explode. Everyone could understand his feelings. The wild dog had a sharp tongue. Other things aside, at the moment when Ni Yuankai had completely gone berserk, the wild dog still displayed such a kind of incisive and sharp tongue to the fullest. The second Dharma form crossed its arms and waited for Ni Yuankai to lose his temper. The first Dharma form looked up at the clouds and recited, "What is there in the mountains? There are white clouds on the ridge, but it is a pity that these are not the white clouds on the ridge." These two Chuyang did not have the slightest intention of fighting. The second Dharma body faced the gazes of the crowd and even said, "Is it strange to look at us like this? Is it weird? What do you think?" Everyone was rendered mute in an instant. How sharp and bitter was this ridicule? "Kaka." Ni Yuankai gritted his teeth. "Wild dog, who is the clown?" "You are the clown. How dare you use such a strange method to hide your incompetence? Do you really think I'm a fool? In front of the five-mother-child heavenly demon cauldron, you can only surrender." This explanation? The first and second Dharma bodies could not help but shake their heads. However, many people actually accepted and approved of this view. "That's right. This wild dog has been cornered for a long time. He has no other choice but to do this. The five-mother-child heavenly demon cauldron is the five-mother-child heavenly demon cauldron. How can the wild dog deal with it? The wild dog is just deliberately mystifying." You're tuning in to the Celestial War YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.